Chapter 462. Little Shu fights the shark. Yushu's shout caught the attention of the students in the water, and they all looked up to see a shark fin floating in the water. Mengyao jumped in fright as she looked in the direction Yushu was pointing. There was indeed a shark fin floating around in the water. Isn't this the swimming area? Why's there a shark here? I opened up a hole in the barrier earlier and the shark swam in. Pinliang ran over to Yushu and Mengyao, trying to take credit for what he'd done. It wasn't bullshit. He'd swum to the safe zone to prevent Yushu from seeing through his act, and opened up a big hole in the barrier. Of course, Pinliang wasn't afraid of a real shark either, since the chances of that happening were too low. Unless the smell of blood attracted the shark, why else would a shark come here? That's great, we finally have shark meat to eat. Good job, Liang. Yushu patted Pinliang on the shoulder happily, but turned to him worriedly. I say, Liang, you washed yourself clean, right? You don't smell bad, do you? No, I've been in the water for so long, I only smell salty. Pinliang explained, embarrassed. That's more like it, Yushu said, but she still moved a little further away. The students in the water were all scared out of their wits at the sight of the shark, and they ran to the shore in a panic. It didn't take long before there was no one else in the water except for the shark. Xiaofu swam closer too, and Pinliang was rubbing his palms together, ready to fight the shark when Yushu ran over first. Shu, where are you going? It's dangerous. Mengyao jumped in fright at Yushu's actions as she called out to her. It's fine, I'll go take a look. Yushu wasn't afraid of sharks. The last time Linny had brought her along, she'd been able to kill a shark. Sharks weren't that bad after all and should be easy to kill. She wanted to see if she could do it. Yeah, Shu, don't go there, it's too dangerous. Let me catch this shark. Pinliang was afraid that Yushu would notice something if she got too close. But Yushu didn't listen to Pinliang at all. She ran straight to the beach and Pinliang had no choice but to jump into the sea first. He was afraid that Yushu would jump into the sea too. Lin Yi, on the beach not too far away, raised his head to look at the shark in the sea, then at Yushu before lowering his head, ignoring them. Hey, aren't you their bodyguard and follower? There's a shark in the water, why aren't you protecting Yushu? Xiao looked at Lin Yi curiously. Isn't there Zhong Pinliang? I won't be going. Lin Yi smiled. Xiao thought that Lin Yi would rush up and expose his relationship with Mengyao and Yushu, but Lin Yi didn't seem to have any intention of going. He'll run faster than a rabbit if there's danger. Ha, if you know that, then why would I go? Pinliang would have run if there was danger. Does he look like he's in danger? Lin Yi asked. It doesn't look like it. Xiao nodded. Plus, is that a shark? Lin Yi smiled coldly. Did sharks swim like that? And it could even move horizontally? Wasn't that shark a little too strong? Not a shark? Then what is it? Xiao blinked, not understanding what Lin Yi meant. You'll know when you see it. Lin Yi wasn't sure what was in the sea, but it didn't look like it was controlled by a machine. It looked more like a person. Pinliang jumped into the sea and pointed at the shark. How dare you, shark? How dare you come here? Wow, I didn't think Pinliang would be this brave, fighting a shark. The students on the shore praised, making Pinliang feel a little smug. Shu, let's get further away. It's too dangerous here. Mengyao pulled Yushu away from the shore. Watch me, Yao. Yushu wasn't scared at all. She pulled out a giant pebble from the sea and called out. Liang, get out of the way. Pinliang jumped in fright and turned around to see a giant oval object flying at him. He dodged instinctively, and the object hit the shark in the sea with a bang. Gao Xiaofu let out a blood-curdling scream as the pebble smashed into his forehead. Blood gushed out from his forehead and instantly dyed the nearby seawater red. Yeah, I killed the shark. Yushu danced around excitedly. She didn't think that she'd hit the shark with just one hit, making it bleed. Why did I hear a scream just now? Does a shark scream too? Mengyao looked at the sea curiously, trying to figure something out. I was the one who screamed. Pinliang explained quickly, shocked. He was worried that Xiaofu wouldn't have died, would he? You screamed? I hit a shark, what's yours? Yushu asked curiously. Well, the shark was in pain and I saw that it didn't know how to scream, so I screamed for it. Yeah, I screamed for it. Pinliang explained with a dry laugh. I see. Yushu nodded. Liang, hurry up and get the shark I killed. I want to eat grilled shark meat. Okay. Pinliang was quite troubled. He'd wanted to show off his skills, but Yushu got there first. What a waste of effort. Pinliang dove into the water and saw Xiaofu grimacing in pain as he held his forehead, but it didn't look like anything serious. It was just a flesh wound. Pinliang sighed in relief and pointed at the frozen shark he'd bought from the supermarket. He gestured for Xiaofu to push the shark from behind while he pulled it up himself. Xiaofu endured the pain in his head and helped Pinliang push the shark ashore. He quickly dove back into the water looking for a place to go out to sea. "This shark's pretty big." Yushu ran to the shark excitedly and poked it with her finger. Why's the shark so cold? It looks like it just came out of the fridge." Chapter 463. Pretend to be a shark a little longer? Is that so? Yushu blinked. She didn't know if sharks were cold-blooded or not, so she decided to believe Pinliang's explanation for now. "Yes," Pinliang said confidently. "Shu, I'll make roasted shark for you and Yao Yao now. We can't bring a fire source on the plane, so I brought a solar barbecue grill. I'll show you high-tech food later." "Oh, that's great. Hurry up." Yushu was overjoyed at the thought that she could eat roasted shark very soon. Mengyao, on the other hand, looked at the shark with a weird expression on her face. "Why's this shark missing a fin?" "Wah." Pinliang's eyes went wide as he looked at the shark on the ground. As expected, the shark was missing a fin. And it looked like it had been cut off by someone. Pinliang was so pissed off he wanted to curse at the supermarket owner for lying to him. He'd cut off a shark's fin and sold it at such a high price. He was going to get someone to smash his shop. Motherfucker. Shu must have cut off the shark's fin, yes. It must have been smashed by a rock. Pinliang explained. "Really? I'm that good?" Yushu didn't believe that she could have cut off the shark's fin. "Don't tell me you bought this shark from the supermarket?" Mengyao said as she kicked the shark twice, noticing that it was hard and solid. It was clearly frozen solid. "Yeah, Yao Yao, why does it look like you bought it from the supermarket? Look, there's a price tag in the shark's mouth?" Yushu looked at the shark in confusion. "Is this the one I killed? Lil Yangzi, are you mistaken?" "Yes, it's definitely it." Pinliang glanced at the shark's mouth and saw a white price tag. He gritted his teeth in anger. Was this Xiaofu blind? He didn't see the missing fin, but how could he not see the price tag in the shark's mouth? Pinliang, however, couldn't say that out loud. He quickly took the price tag out of the shark's mouth with a dry smile and stuffed it into his mouth, chewing it twice before swallowing. "This isn't a price tag, it's scallop meat." It was very delicious. As the saying goes, humans die in pursuit of wealth and birds die in pursuit of food. This shark must have swam to the shallow sea to eat the scallops, but it was smashed to death by Little Shu's stone. Pinliang quickly changed the topic, afraid that the two would see through him again. "Scallop meat? So you eat it raw?" Mengyao felt that something was wrong. This is something sharks risk their lives to eat. How can it not be delicious? "Sorry, I should have left something this delicious for you, Yao Yao," Pinliang said quickly. "Then you should eat by yourself. Don't call me Yao Yao, it sounds weird." Mengyao reminded. "Didn't Shu call you Yao Yao?" Pinliang couldn't help but ask. "Shu calls me Yao Yao, sis, why don't you call me that too?" Mengyao glared at Pinliang. Forget it then." Pinliang didn't want to become Mingyao's little brother. Wouldn't that make it harder for him to pursue her? With a laugh, Pinliang said, "I'm going to roast the shark. All the boys in our class come over. We'll cut the shark together and everyone will have a share when it's done." Some of the students were more or less suspicious of the shark in Pinliang's hand like Mengyao and Yushu, but when they heard that the shark was going to be roasted later and that everyone would have a share, no one dared to do such a hateful thing. They all started helping Pinliang and their disgust towards him lessened a lot. Pinliang prepared the solar grill and looked around for Xiaofu. After a while, he saw Xiaofu running over with a shirt wrapped around his head. "How are you?" Pinliang asked quietly. "Luckily it's just my forehead. It's just a flesh wound." Xiaofu said. "Why didn't you hold on a little longer before you went down? I didn't even get to do anything and you went down already. I'm so embarrassed I didn't even show my heroic image." Pinliang complained. "Liang bro, I had no choice. Yushu was too fierce. She threw a rock at me and if I didn't go down quickly, I'd be dead if she threw another rock at me." Xiaofu said with lingering fear. "You're right, but who knew why Yushu was so enthusiastic about this?" Pinliang shook his head. "Maybe I should pretend to be a shark again later?" Xiaofu asked carefully. "Sure, we'll talk about it later." Pinliang nodded. "Let's put the grill on the grill first and get ready to roast it." Pinliang and Xiaofu waited for a while, but the grill didn't heat up. Pinliang started to panic. "What's wrong with this thing? Why isn't it working? There's not enough solar energy, right?" Xiaofu looked up at the sun and said carefully. "Then what do we do?" Pinliang looked up. It was indeed cloudy. "Don't worry, we still have a hand crank." I'll crank it here and you blow on the charcoal in the grill. It'll be easy as long as it's lit up, Xiaofu said. All right. Pinliang nodded and started blowing air into the stove while Xiaofu chewed on the booster with all his might. After a while, Pinliang's mouth was swollen, but there was no smoke coming out of the charcoal. Xiaofu, on the other hand, was shaking until his arms hurt. Why didn't you guys light up the fire? Yushu watched as the boys cut the shark into smaller pieces, and Pinliang didn't even light up the grill. What kind of grill is this? It's a new model. I bought it on TV recommended by you bro. Xiaofu said proudly. You believe stuff from TV? Yushu's eyes were wide open. That's. Pinliang almost kicked Xiaofu to death. He'd thought it was some high-tech product, but it turned out to be an unreliable TV show. Liang bro, don't be mad, it'll be done soon. I'll try harder. Xiaofu said as he increased the speed of his shaking, sweating profusely. Xiaofu, why do you look like a Native American chief? Why's there something on your head? Yushu said as she tried to pull the shirt off Xiaofu's head. Don't. That's what it means to struggle. Look at TV, people who struggle have a piece of cloth on their head. I'm struggling to light the grill. Xiaofu explained quickly. Chapter 464. Chapter 464, Wood Drilling, right away. Pinliang panicked when he heard that Mengyao was going to find someone else. Fu, didn't you eat breakfast this morning? Put in more effort. I did, but I threw up. No, I didn't throw up, I pooped. Xiaofu said. Pinliang's face darkened, feeling a little awkward. Yushu really knew how to rub it in. He pooped, didn't he do it too? Pooped in his pants too? Pinliang was afraid that Yushu would laugh at him again, so he said, cut the crap and shake it harder. With that, Pinliang increased the strength of his breath, blowing at the charcoal in the stove. All right. I'll give it my all. Xiaofu gritted his teeth and increased the speed of his hand. With a bang, a beam of fire shot out of the stove, and Pinliang howled in pain as the smell of roasted pig hair wafted through the air. Pinliang's hair was singed and a part of his face was blackened as well. Fortunately, the fire only lasted for a split second, or the skin on his face would have been burnt off. Fu, what are you doing? Pinliang panicked. Are you trying to burn me to death? Liang bro, weren't you the one who told me to hurry up? Xiaofu said bitterly. Pinliang didn't know what to say anymore. He was the one who told Xiaofu to hurry up after all. With a dark face he said, then continue. That was pretty good and I think we're about to light the stove up. All right. Let's work harder. Xiaofu nodded, roaring as he started shaking the pole again. But this time Pinliang didn't dare get too close. He could only blow from afar and the effect was much weaker. Xiaofu shook the stove even faster than before, but without Pinliang's help, the fire wouldn't come out no matter how hard he tried. With a thud, Xiaofu fell on his butt, sitting on the ground with a groan. Thank goodness he was on the beach or he'd be in a lot of pain. What the hell? Pinliang was infuriated. He'd wanted to show off in front of Mengyao, but problems kept popping up. He either messed up here or there. It's broken. Brother Liang, the handle is broken. Gao Xiaofu raised the joystick in his hand with a sad face. Broken. Pinliang was infuriated. What kind of trash did Xiaofu buy? What an embarrassment. Sai, you two are too unreliable. Yushu looked at Pinliang and Xiaofu, shaking her head in disappointment. She turned around and saw smoke rising from Lin Yi's chimney. I'll go look for someone else. Look, they've already started a fire. With that, Yushu ran off, but Pinliang frowned. The person by the fire was Lin Yi. Brother Liang, aren't we not allowed to bring a fire source on the plane? Where did he get the fire? Gao Xiaofu asked curiously. Yeah. We're not allowed to bring a fire source on the plane, he must have brought it in private. We'll go report him. Pinliang was pissed after trying to light the fire for a long time. He saw Yushu and Mengyao run over to Lin Yi's side. He panicked. Let's go, we'll go look for him. Lin Yi got a few clams and crabs from the sea, planning to roast them. He wasn't interested in shark meat, so he made a fire with some twigs to roast the clams. Lin Yi rarely talked to anyone other than Kang Xiaobo, so no one thought that Lin Yi didn't fit in with the group. Boss, I got some more clams. Do you think this is enough? Xiaobo said as he put the clams in his clothes on the beach beside Lin Yi. It's more than enough for the two of us. Lin Yi said after a glance. Me too. Xiao Xiao was panicking. I want to eat too. Go get it yourself. Lin Yi said faintly as he looked at her. Who did this girl think she was? She wanted to get it for free? Oh. Xiao Xiao stood up, feeling wronged as she walked to the beach. She wasn't happy. Why was Lin Yi treating her like this? Couldn't he be a little nicer? Xiao Xiao was even more troubled when she got to the beach. Kang Xiaobo had pretty much taken all the clams in the shallow water. It seemed like she'd have to go deeper. Luckily, it wasn't that Xiao Xiao didn't know how to swim. She just wanted Lin Yi to teach her. That was why she said she couldn't swim. Going deeper would be dangerous. Boss, why don't you go easy on the fairer sex? Kang Xiaobo felt wronged on Xiao Xiao's behalf. If there was a pretty girl who wanted to eat clams, Kang Xiaobo would be more than happy to give it to her. But now Xiao Xiao was chasing after Lin Yi. Kang Xiaobo couldn't do that and Lin Yi wouldn't let Kang Xiaobo do that. Lin Yi, where'd you get the fire? Pin Liang was pissed off and he felt that he was in the right. He was the one who found the plane, so he had the right to question Lin Yi. He was in the right after all. Lin Yi frowned and looked at Pin Liang. What's it got to do with you? You. Pin Liang was pissed. He was here to question Lin Yi, but he didn't expect Lin Yi to refute him with one sentence. But Pin Liang wasn't going to back down now. He pointed at Lin Yi. You're not allowed to bring a fire on the plane and you brought matches and a lighter? Are you trying to put the safety of the whole class at risk? Do you think I won't call the cops on you? Pin Liang immediately elevated Lin Yi's actions to the safety of the entire class, and the students who thought Pin Liang was a little arrogant and despotic all stood on Pin Liang's side. Yeah, bringing a fire with you was the same as screwing everyone over. Which eye of yours saw me bring a lighter and matches? Lin Yi smiled coldly. You're just looking for trouble, aren't you? How did you start a fire without a fire? Pin Liang was sure that Lin Yi used a fire source to start a fire. Otherwise he wouldn't have any equipment to start a fire. My boss started a fire by drilling wood. Kang Xiaobo was pissed. Pin Liang was accusing Lin Yi of using a lighter or matches to start a fire. Drilling wood to start a fire? Pin Liang paused and laughed. Are you kidding me? Drilling wood to start a fire? Why didn't you say you used a magnifying glass to start a fire? Didn't you learn in primary school? Didn't you know that drilling wood to start a fire? Kang Xiaobo rolled his eyes and ignored Pin Liang. Then drill another one for me to see. If you can't do it, I'll call the cops. Pin Liang shouted angrily. Chapter 465. A real shark. Lin Yi glanced at Yushu, ignoring her. Perform for Pin Liang? Lin Yi, on the other hand, wasn't that bored. He put the clams on the fire rack and started roasting them. Lin Yi, you can start a fire by drilling wood? Meng Yao, who'd been standing on the side, hadn't said a word. Yushu said that Lin Yi could start a fire by drilling wood. Yes. Lin Yi had no choice but to answer since the miss had asked. Then why don't you drill it for us to see? Meng Yao didn't want Lin Yi to get into trouble, and judging from Pin Liang's attitude, he'd probably do what he said. Lin Yi was her follower and Meng Yao didn't want Lin Yi to get arrested. Oh, okay. Lin Yi found 2 pieces of wood and prepared to start a fire. Wait, why are you standing so far away from me? Perform in front of me if you can. Pin Liang waved his hand to stop Lin Yi, surprised that Lin Yi had agreed to perform. But the easier it was for Lin Yi to agree, the more he was afraid that Lin Yi would do something to it. Do you need me to perform in front of you? Lin Yi thought that Pin Liang could go after Meng Yao if he wanted to, but there was no need for him to get a solar grill. Lin Yi didn't bother with him, but the guy had taken the initiative to target him. Lin Yi was a little puzzled. Was the guy itching for a beating again? Or was he out of his mind? Pin Liang wouldn't have dared to cause trouble for Lin Yi under normal circumstances, but today was different. He was the one who organized the trip and he was the one who booked the plane. From a certain perspective, he was the person in charge of the trip. This way, if Lin Yi were to bring a fire source onto the plane, he would have the responsibility to stop and discipline him. That was why Pin Liang dared to do this. Pin Liang wouldn't be this angry if Lin Yi had just admitted to it. At most, he'd scold him a bit and confiscate his fireplace. But Lin Yi was drilling wood to start a fire? Pin Liang had heard of drilling wood to make fire, but he had never seen it before. Also, if wood could really be used to start a fire, then those exploration teams and inspection groups wouldn't have to attach so much importance to their personal fire source. Wouldn't they be able to start a fire by just finding 2 pieces of wood? Alright, just put it in my hand and let me see if I can start a fire. Pin Liang was afraid that Lin Yi would do something to it, so he asked for another piece of wood. He didn't believe that Lin Yi could start a fire so easily. Do whatever you want. Don't look for me if you burn up. Lin Yi was just thinking about how to teach this guy a lesson when he didn't expect Pin Liang to take the initiative to crawl under his fingers. Alright, I won't look for you. It's my bad luck if I burn up. Everyone is here to testify. Pin Liang laughed coldly. But I'm afraid that you don't have what it takes. Lin Yi didn't say much. He put a piece of wood in Pin Liang's hand and started rubbing the other piece of wood against it. I thought you had some tricks up your sleeves. You'll never be able to make a fire with this kind of method. Pinliang laughed at Lin Yi's actions. Since you want to make a fool of yourself, then do what you want. Pinliang thought to himself. He had made a fool of himself today, and now it was Lin Yi's turn. Pinliang was laughing proudly when he heard a pft. Then he felt a burning sensation in his palm. Wah! Pinliang realized that the wood in his hand had been set on fire, and the flames were blazing. It scared him so much that he threw the wood away and started screaming. It's hot, it's hot! Everyone had benefited from Pinliang, so they couldn't make fun of him. Yushu on the other hand didn't care. She started laughing at Pinliang's funny face. Kang Xiaobo started laughing as well. Pinliang felt so humiliated that he wanted to jump into the sea. He was just about to find an excuse to leave when he saw a shark fin swimming around in the sea. Pinliang was overjoyed. This Gao Xiaofu was really something. He came at just the right time. He was pretending to be a shark again, and this time in deep water. Yushu wouldn't be able to throw a rock that far no matter how good she was. Even the Olympic shot put champion wouldn't be able to do it. Another shark attack. Pinliang yelled, drawing everyone's attention away. Wait for me, I'll come back after I take care of this shark. Pinliang had already thought of an excuse. He'd kill the shark later, but he didn't plan on dragging the shark back to shore. He couldn't drag it back to shore, since he only bought a frozen shark from the supermarket. He didn't have any left to drag. But he could use the excuse that the shark was deep in the sea, and it was too far for him to drag it back. There was already one shark and he couldn't finish it. He didn't need another one. In order to avoid the awkwardness of drilling wood to start a fire, Pinliang sprinted into the sea and charged at the shark. You bold shark, Liang bro will take care of you. Yushu had gotten the first move, and Pinliang couldn't let it slip again. He had to get rid of the shark as soon as possible before Yushu made another move. Lin Yi almost burst out laughing at Pinliang's reactive. This shark was a real shark after all. He couldn't help but admire Pinliang's bravery. Liang bro, where are you going? Xiaofu was shocked as he watched Pinliang run away. He wasn't the one who pretended to be the shark, so Xiaofu thought of a scary possibility. Pinliang, on the other hand, was already far away and couldn't hear Xiaofu's shout at all. He was still charging forward passionately, but he froze when he was about to reach the shark. That was because he saw the shark opening its bloody mouth towards him. Wah! Pinliang stopped. Xiaofu? The shark didn't reply, but swam towards Pinliang with its mouth open. It was a shark attracted by the smell of blood. Xiaofu's head was bleeding and the boys in the class had used seawater to wash the shark's meat, so the shark had snuck in through the hole Pinliang had made in the security line. Oh my god! Pinliang realized that this wasn't Xiaofu at all. It was a real shark. Pinliang was scared and with a scream he swam towards the shore, pissing his pants. This time he used all his strength and started running. Although it was a little shameful, it was nothing compared to losing his life. Chapter 466. Lin Yi makes a move because of her concentration. Xiao Xiao didn't realize that the shark wasn't far from her, and that Pinliang was drawing it over. Pinliang on the other hand saw Xiao Xiao and his eyes lit up. He quickly swam towards Xiao Xiao's direction, trying to draw the shark's attention to Xiao Xiao. Pinliang wouldn't have dared to do this under normal circumstances, since he was very afraid of Xiao Xiao. But now that his life was in danger he had to do it. He was about to be bitten by a shark, so what did he care about? If he could divert the shark's attention and make it attack Xiao Xiao, he'd be free. As expected, the shark's attention was drawn to Xiao Xiao, and it swam towards her. Boss, that shark. Kang Xiaobo started, pointing at where the shark was swimming towards Xiao Xiao. Lin Yi frowned. Naturally, he'd seen the shark get drawn to Xiao Xiao's side. Lin Yi didn't care if Pinliang got bitten to death by the shark or not, it was better if he was dead. Xiao Xiao, on the other hand, was someone Lin Yi didn't have a good impression of, but he didn't hate her either. If she'd been eaten by a shark for no reason, Lin Yi would have sympathized with her. It was one thing if they didn't know each other, but she was his desk mate after all, and they'd been messing around for so long. Lin Yi still had some feelings for her, and he had no choice but to stand up and walk towards the beach. Xiao Xiao, you dumb girl, get out of the way. Lin Yi couldn't help but yell. Ah! Xiao Xiao blinked at Lin Yi's words. She looked up to see Pinliang swimming towards her with a shark right behind him. Xiao Xiao's face changed. She'd seen through the fake shark Pinliang made with Lin Yi's warning, but this one was obviously a real shark, or Pinliang wouldn't be this fast. But wasn't this guy a little too evil? Why did he have to run towards him? Wasn't it obvious that he was trying to attract the shark's attention to him? Xiao Xiao was infuriated and scared, but she was hesitant. The bracelet that her mother had left for her was lost here. If she ran away now, it would be difficult to locate it later, and the hope of finding it would be even slimmer. What are you thinking about? Linny was getting a little exasperated. Xiao Xiao was usually a smart girl, so why was she so dumb at critical moments? My bracelet, Xiao Xiao said. Linny fainted. He was already dead and he was still looking for the bracelet? What kind of thinking was that? But Xiao Xiao didn't move. Even if she ran back, it'd be too late. Linny could only jump into the sea with his clothes on. Pinliang's life and death had nothing to do with Lin Yi, but this idiot Xiao Xiao. Linny didn't want her to die. Xiao Xiao was a little shocked. She didn't think that Lin Yi would jump into the sea to save her. She couldn't believe it. Was this really Lin Yi? Lin Yi swam over quickly, ignoring Xiao Xiao. The shark was already swimming over, and Pinliang was hiding behind Xiao Xiao like a coward. Lin Yi was very familiar with dealing with sharks. They were in deep water, but Lin Yi's feet were still on the bottom. He could use his strength as a golden class late phase peak to kill the shark with one punch, but that would be too much of a shock, so Lin Yi decided to use the same method as last time. After a punch, he'd use the branch in his hand to stab the shark's cheek. The shark was taken care of by Lin Yi very cleanly. Pinliang and Xiao Xiao were the most shocked. Pinliang didn't think that Lin Yi could take care of a shark so easily, while he himself was his enemy. Xiao Xiao, on the other hand, was shocked by Lin Yi's strength. He didn't seem to be sloppy at all, and that made Peng Zhan spend a lot of money to hire him. As for the other students in the class, they'd seen Yushu killing a shark with a cobblestone before, and most of them thought that sharks were easy to kill, so they weren't all that shocked when Lin Yi killed another shark. Are you trying to kill me? Xiao Xiao snapped back to reality, and the first thing she did was send a kick at Pinliang's crotch, making him cry out in pain. His eyes rolled back and he almost fell into the sea. Xiao Xiao had used a lot of strength in that kick. She was pissed off to the max. This Pinliang was basically trying to kill her. What was the difference between that and murder? And so, Xiao Xiao didn't hold back at all. Pinliang deserved to be kicked to death. Pinliang knew that he was in the wrong, and even though the pain was unbearable, he still held his crotch and carefully went back to the shore. He sat on the beach, unable to speak, his face pale. Xiaofu quickly ran over to comfort him. At this moment, no one in the class was sympathizing with Pinliang anymore. What Pinliang did before was simply too immoral. He couldn't fight the shark himself, so he lured it to someone else. Wasn't that a little too much? It wasn't hard to imagine that if the person in the sea hadn't been Xiao Xiao, but someone else, would Pinliang have lured the shark over? If it weren't for Lin Yi's timely arrival, wouldn't the person in the sea be in the fish's stomach? Dumb girl, why didn't you run? Lin Yi was a little annoyed that Xiao Xiao didn't run. If she had run, he wouldn't have had to go into the water. Now that he was all wet, it was really uncomfortable. My mom left me a bracelet. Xiao Xiao remembered that she hadn't found it yet. She couldn't care less about the shark's blood in the water. She crouched down to look for it. What bracelet? You don't even want your life anymore? Lin Yi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. It's something my mom left for me. Xiao Xiao looked at Lin Yi, a little embarrassed, but she didn't look away. This bracelet was too important to her. She didn't want to lose it. Something? It was Lin Yi's turn to be surprised, but it was just as Xiao Xiao said. Lin Yi understood why Xiao Xiao would risk her life to look for the bracelet. What Lin Yi didn't expect was that Xiao Xiao didn't have a mother. My mom left when I was really young. Xiao Xiao shook her head, a faint sadness in her eyes. Chapter 467. Chapter 467, Pinliang's new plan. You? What are you doing? Xiao Xiao jumped, not expecting Lin Yi to be so bold as to hold her hand. She wanted to move away subconsciously, but she didn't manage to. Lin Yi didn't say anything. He put something in Xiao Xiao's hand and left. A bracelet? Xiao Xiao looked at the thing Lin Yi put down, speechless. She'd been looking for it for so long, and Lin Yi just casually touched the water and found it? Xiao Xiao looked at Lin Yi's back in disbelief, her eyes filled with disbelief. She didn't understand Lin Yi at all. Lin Yi wasn't a treasure hunter or anything. How would he be able to find the bracelet Xiao Xiao threw into the water under normal circumstances? Lin Yi was just using Xiao Xiao's faint hostility towards him, and through the jade sensing ability he found something with Xiao Xiao's presence in the sea. It was just a normal function of the jade, and Lin Yi often used it in the battlefield to find out what his enemies were hiding. Of course, this function only worked on people who were hostile to him. It didn't work on anyone else. The spring outing ended peacefully with Pinliang's farce. In the evening, the students in the class took the seaplane back to Songshan City. Pingliang's face was pale as he sat next to Xiaofu. The two didn't try to sit in the last row anymore, instead choosing to sit behind everyone else in the middle of the cabin. The spring outing was a perfect plan, and now it's ruined. Pingliang realized that everything was going wrong. No matter what he did, it always ended in failure. If this went on, he might even think that he was possessed by the god of misfortune. Liang bro, I'm sorry I didn't warn you in time when that shark came, Xiaofu said, a little guilty. It's fine, I was too impatient. Pingliang waved his hand. I'm afraid Mingyao's impression of me is even worse now. She thinks I'm a coward trying to lure danger to a woman. I'm done for, there's no hope left. Brother Liang, don't give up. There's still hope. Xiaofu tried to calm Pingliang down. In fact, even he himself thought that Pingliang's chances were slim. Really? Is there still hope? Pingliang was like a drowning man clutching at the last straw. He knew it was hopeless, but he didn't want to give up. Yes. Gao Xiaofu hesitated for a moment before saying, Brother Liang, I think you should force yourself on her. Force yourself on me? Pingliang paused, looking at Xiaofu in shock. You're saying, that's right. Gao Xiaofu was just saying it casually, but after saying it, even he felt that it was a good idea, so he continued, Brother Liang, it's already April, and there are only 2 months left before the college entrance examination. Time is tight, and if you don't hurry up, I'm afraid that your chances will be even slimmer after you enter university. What if Mingyao finds someone else after she goes to university? Yeah, you're right. Pingliang nodded, but isn't it too risky to force yourself on her? Mingyao's family isn't normal, and I'm afraid that it'll backfire. Pingliang had given Ruoming a similar idea before, telling him to force himself on Tang Yun, but that was only for girls with no background. Mingyao, on the other hand, was different. Pengzhan wouldn't let him off the hook if he really did force himself on Mingyao. That's not true. Xiaofu waved his hand mysteriously. Think about it, Liang bro. What do the people in the upper class care about the most? Its reputation, and if Mingyao really becomes yours, would she dare to sue you? Even if she wanted to, Pengzhan might not agree to it. This is related to his daughter's reputation for life. If this gets out, how is Mingyao going to get married? That's true, but how can I guarantee that Pengzhan won't do something to me in the dark? Pingliang hesitated, still worried. Isn't that easy? First, Mingyao's already yours, and I don't believe that she won't care about all this. As long as she cares, you can take advantage of the situation and break through her mental defenses. Xiaofu said confidently. Secondly, Liang bro, you have to go to Pengzhan's company and spread the word that Mingyao's already yours, that you're his son-in-law. Let everyone know about this, and Pengzhan won't be able to do anything to you even if he wants to, since everyone knows about this. He'll have to acknowledge you as his son-in-law to avoid being laughed at. Xiaofu said confidently. I say, Xiaofu, you're pretty good, aren't you? Pingliang listened to Xiaofu's analysis and felt that it was true. It was a great idea if he did it right. Of course, Liang bro, you can do this if you're really afraid of something happening. Xiaofu was getting more and more excited. Lock Mingyao up first, then go to Pengzhan's place and say that Mingyao's already yours. See how he reacts. If he acknowledges you as his son-in-law, then go back and cook the rice. If he doesn't, then let Mingyao go and tell him that it's just a joke. That way the risk will be much lower. Xiaofu, I really didn't realize that you're so smart. Pingliang was a little worried before, but calmed down after hearing Xiaofu's instructions. There was no risk at all. Haha, it's all thanks to your training, Liang bro. Xiaofu smiled, pleased with himself. Man, this thing down there got kicked by Xiao Xiao and it's all swollen now. Looks like I won't be able to use it anytime soon. I can't force myself on her either. Pingliang said, a little regretful. Xiao Xiao gripped the bracelet in her hand tightly. She needed to re-evaluate Lin Yi's strength. She'd underestimated Lin Yi too much before, resulting in her losing time and time again. It seemed that making Lin Yi fall in love with her wasn't an easy task. Lin Yi had saved her today, but Xiao Xiao could tell that Lin Yi didn't save her because he liked her at all. It was out of pity. And so, Xiao Xiao felt that she needed to adjust her plan a little. If she kept chasing Lin Yi like this, Lin Yi would never like her for the rest of his life. It seemed that she had to do something. Chapter 468. Chapter 468, Xiao Xiao's confession. No. He'd saved her, but how could she let go of the humiliation she'd suffered? Absolutely not. She was Xiao Xiao. When had she ever been so irresolute? She'd already made up her mind to make him pay, so she'd keep her word. It was Monday morning, and Lin Yi brought the freshly made shark fins to Mr. Tang. It wasn't much of a delicacy for Mingyao and Yushu after all. Mr. Tang naturally was very happy, He couldn't stop smiling when he saw the shark fins Lin Yi had brought. Mrs. Tang, on the other hand, was happy as well. Lin Yi's appearance had changed the family for the better. Lin Yi, I've thought about it and I've decided to buy a retail store after the relocation. It might cost a bit more, but it'll be enough to open a barbecue shop. Mrs. Tang said. This was the decision she'd made after hearing from Tang Yun that Lin Yi wanted her to open a shop. That's a good thing. Lin Yi nodded. With a shop in front and a home behind, we don't have to worry about a place to live. Yeah. Mrs. Tang paused for a moment before continuing, but I might not be able to return the money I borrowed from you so soon. We've made some money these days, and with the money from old Tang's surgery, it should be enough to pay for the store. Mrs. Tang knew that Tang Yun wouldn't be able to say it herself, so she might as well say it herself. Even if Lin Yi rejected her, it didn't matter. She'd be the one losing face anyway. You don't have to return that money. Lin Yi smiled. Let me know if it's not enough. It's enough, it's enough. Mrs. Tang said with a smile after hearing Lin Yi's words. Old Tang, I told you Lin Yi would be fine. That's good. Tang Juqing let out a breath of relief. He was indeed worried. Lin Yi and Tang Yun were friends, but they were only boyfriend and girlfriend. They weren't engaged or married, so Tang Juqing didn't feel comfortable owing Lin Yi so much money. Mom, why are you all so greedy? Tang Yun wasn't very happy. Although she didn't feel that way about Lin Yi giving money to her family anymore, she still felt that she owed it to Lin Yi. If his parents couldn't pay back the money, it would still fall on him in the end. What if he couldn't pay back the money? How was he supposed to return it? This child, what do you mean by greedy? Isn't it difficult at home? Mrs. Tang glared at her daughter, thinking, you really don't know how to use your resources. Lin Yi is so generous, can't you just ask for more? At that time, he would also buy a bigger retail store at home and even buy the first and second floors. Tang Yun pouted and lowered her head. She couldn't win against her mother in an argument, and even if she did, her mother might say something embarrassing. So Tang Yun decided to keep quiet. All right, Uncle Tang, Auntie Tang, I'm going to school with Tang Yun. Lin Yi smiled as he smoothed things over. Okay, it's about time you guys go. Mrs. Tang smiled as she sent Tang Yun and Lin Yi to the door. When Lin Yi left, he gave Mrs. Tang a bank card. Mrs. Tang paused for a second, then put it into her pocket with a smile. She knew that Lin Yi gave it to her, and he did it behind Tang Yun's back, which meant that the money was free and not borrowed. There wasn't any evidence, and Tang Yun didn't see it. Other than giving Mr. Tang shark fin, Lin Yi also came to give Mrs. Tang this card. He wanted Mrs. Tang to open up the barbecue shop as soon as possible, reducing Tang Yun's burden. What did you just give my mom? Tang Yun's eyes were sharp, and she noticed something. It's nothing. Lin Yi smiled. Did you secretly give her money? Tang Yun wasn't stupid, and she could roughly guess what he was doing. No, a small accessory, Lin Yi said casually. Oh. Tang Yun let out a breath of relief. She was afraid that she owed Lin Yi too much, and she wouldn't be able to pay it back in the future. Lin Yi drove Tang Yun to school and parked the car at the food street. Xiao Xiao's Audi TT followed them and stopped beside Lin Yi's car. Xiao Xiao took over another stall on the food street, and the vendors didn't dare say anything because Xiao Xiao and Lin Yi knew each other. Who would want to mess with her? Honey. Xiao Xiao stopped the car and waved at Lin Yi. What? Lin Yi's eyes went wide as he looked at Xiao Xiao, confused. Was there something wrong with this girl? Calling him honey? Tang Yun's face darkened as she looked at Xiao Xiao strangely. Xiao Xiao had already shown that she was too close to Lin Yi in the cafeteria, and that made Tang Yun uncomfortable. Now she was calling Lin Yi honey right in front of her? What did she think she was? Lin Yi, didn't you say you were going to talk to her? Xiao Xiao ran over and grabbed Lin Yi's arm. You liar. You told me yesterday that you were going to give her a breakup fee and break up with her. Why are you still with her? Xiao Xiao, what's wrong with you? Lin Yi was about to explode at Xiao Xiao's weird words. Lin Yi, I think I'm pregnant. Can you take me to the hospital for a checkup? Xiao Xiao didn't answer Lin Yi's question. Tang Yun frowned as she looked at Xiao Xiao. From what she knew of Lin Yi, she didn't believe Xiao Xiao's words, but anyone would be suspicious if they heard something like this. What's going on? Didn't Lin Yi give you a breakup fee? Xiao Xiao looked at Tang Yun, confused. I've known Lin Yi for a long time, and I wanted to make you a mistress out of pity, sharing Lin Yi with you, but you didn't know what was good for you, so I had to make Lin Yi be with you for nothing. Tang Yun paused. She didn't really believe Xiao Xiao's words, but Xiao Xiao said it so confidently that Tang Yun couldn't help but be suspicious. One had to know that reputation was very important to a girl, and Xiao Xiao didn't even have a boyfriend. Why would she throw dirty water on herself and say something like that? Seeing that all the students were looking at them, Tang Yun felt her face heat up. Xiao Xiao's words were obviously meant to embarrass her, and even if she was lying, Tang Yun still felt uncomfortable. Did this make the students think that she was trying to steal her man? Tang Yun never thought that she would become the main character of a love triangle. Lin Yi talked to her first. I'm leaving, come find me after class. Tang Yun didn't want to see the weird looks people were giving her, so she said to Lin Yi and quickly walked back to school. Lin Yi, on the other hand, looked at Xiao Xiao with a dark face. What do you want? Chapter 469. Chapter 469. Something happened to Fin. Xiao Xiao decided to take the initiative and cause some trouble for Lin Yi. Lin Yi looked at Xiao Xiao confused. A hero saving a damsel in distress was the most vulgar part of the story, but it was also something that could easily move a man's heart. But Lin Yi didn't think that yesterday's scene could move Xiao Xiao that much. He'd saved Tang Yun a couple of times already, and she didn't even want to marry him. Their relationship was only formed after spending a long time together. The miss, on the other hand, didn't need to be mentioned. He'd saved her many times and she never expressed anything. As a result, Lin Yi didn't think that saving a damsel in distress would make Xiao Xiao confess to him on her own accord. Lin Yi, you're the most charming man I've ever met. Xiao Xiao blushed as she looked at Lin Yi, her eyes blurry. But before Lin Yi could say anything, the phone rang. It was Lin Yi. Sorry, I'll take this call first. Lin Yi made a hand gesture to Xiao Xiao before picking up the call. Xiao Xiao was furious. She'd never been so humble to a man before. She was Xiao Xiao. She'd sworn that in her short life she'd never lower her head to anyone. She'd live a life of her own free will. But now Lin Yi was picking up the phone when she'd finally gotten the courage to confess to him. She couldn't take it anymore. She raised her foot, aiming to step on Lin Yi's foot. Lin Yi thought to himself, why did girls always like to step on other people's feet? He subconsciously moved back and Xiao Xiao stepped on empty air. She'd used too much force and with a crack her high heel broke. Ah! Xiao Xiao was panicking. She glared at Lin Yi. Step on it, or I won't let you answer the phone. As he spoke, he tried to snatch the phone from Lin Yi's hand. Lin Yi frowned, thinking that Xiao Xiao was messing around a little, but seeing how furious she was, Lin Yi decided to let her be. He stretched out his leg and picked up the phone. Hello. I stomp. I stomp. I stomp, stomp, stomp. Xiao Xiao stomped on Lin Yi's foot, but the pain was nothing to Lin Yi. Xiao Xiao, on the other hand, was having a hard time with her giggling. Boss Xiaofan was caught. Just when Lin Yi picked up the phone, Kang Xiaobo's panicked voice came from the other side. Xiaofan was caught? What's going on? Lin Yi paused and ignored Xiao Xiao, frowning as he listened to the phone. Boss, it's like this. I woke up this morning and went to Xiaofan's house to have breakfast with her. Kang Xiaobo said, a little embarrassed. I wake up early every morning. Yeah, get to the point. Who caught Xiaofan? Lin Yi understood Kang Xiaobo's modus operandi. Men and women in love were always passionate, so Lin Yi wouldn't stop Kang Xiaobo from working hard every morning. After all, didn't he still go to Tang Yun's place early in the morning? This morning, Xiaofan was waiting for me on the bench near the breakfast stall like usual. But I usually get there first, but there was a traffic jam this morning, so I got there a little late. Kang Xiaobo said. When I got out of the car, I saw Xiaofan being caught by two men into a white van without a license plate. I was shocked and quickly called a taxi to follow them. I followed them to the entrance of a compound, but the taxi driver only stopped nearby and didn't dare to go in. Hearing Kang Xiaobo's words, Lin Yi sighed. He couldn't understand why these people caught Xiaofan. Could it be that they were sent by Kang Mingming? Where are you? I'll go right now. Lin Yi asked. There's a road sign here, it says Dunming Street sub 7, but there doesn't seem to be anyone passing by, so it should be the suburbs, Kang Xiaobo said. I spent around 300 yuan on the taxi, so it should be the suburbs far away. Okay, don't do anything rash. Wait for me. Lin Yi said. Keep in touch. Okay, boss. Hurry up. I'm afraid they'll do something bad to Xiaofan if I'm late. Kang Xiaobo said. Ah, don't worry. I'm here. Nothing will happen, Lin Yi said. After hanging up the call with Kang Xiaobo, Lin Yi ignored Xiao Xiao and turned to get in the car. But he saw Xiao Xiao's Audi TT. Lin Yi hesitated. Lend me your car. In terms of speed, there was no way his van could catch up to Xiao Xiao's sports car. After all, there was the engine. Even if he stepped on the gas pedal, the car couldn't turn into a plane. The place Kang Xiaobo mentioned was a place Lin Yi had never heard of, and since Kang Xiaobo spent 300 yuan on the taxi, excluding the possibility of the car taking a detour, it was more than 100 kilometers away. It wasn't close at all. Ah. Xiao Xiao blinked. Why did he only think of her when he wanted to borrow the car? Why did he ignore her before? Xiao Xiao humphed. I can borrow the car, but I have to be in the car. Follow if you're not afraid of danger. Linny didn't have time to bullshit with Xiao Xiao. The situation wasn't clear right now, and 1 minute late meant 1 minute more danger. Linny didn't want to waste time trying to convince Xiao Xiao. I'm not. Xiao Xiao nodded. The more dangerous and exciting it is, the more I like it. You're quite special, no wonder you like racing. Linny shook his head. Give me the keys. Xiao Xiao obediently took out the keys but didn't give them to Linny. Instead she unlocked the door. I'll give it to you in the car. What if you leave me behind? Ha. Linny smiled bitterly. I don't lie to my friends. You think I'm your friend? Xiao Xiao was a little excited at Lin Yi's words. Just a normal friend. Neither good nor bad. Linny was being truthful. He didn't have any bad feelings towards Xiao Xiao, nor did he have any good feelings towards her. In his eyes, she was just a spoiled girl who liked to cause trouble. Why would he bother with her? Carry me or else we'll waste time. One of Xiao Xiao's shoes was broken, so she couldn't walk fast. Linny looked at her and casually picked her up with one arm, placing her in the passenger seat. Xiao Xiao was a little shocked. She didn't know that Lin Yi's body was this strong. He could carry her with one arm? Linny got in the car and took the keys from Xiao Xiao. He started the car and said to her, navigate to Dunming Street, number 7. Chapter 470. Chapter 470, Private Territory, is it okay to run a red light? Linny asked. This was Xiao Xiao's car after all. It's fine. Xiao Xiao naturally didn't care about the fine. Linny nodded. Sit tight and fasten your seatbelt. Xiao Xiao didn't think much of Lin Yi telling her to fasten her seatbelt in the city, but the next moment she realized that it was a good thing she did. She'd been driving for a long time, but she'd never seen an Audi TT this performance. It made her feel like she'd wasted her time on it. In the city, Lin Yi took every chance he got, not only ignoring the red lights, but even ignoring the traffic police signaling for him to stop. That's amazing. Xiao Xiao was excited. Why can't I be this amazing? Even the traffic police can't stop you. I'm going to save someone, you're just racing for the thrill. It's different, Lin Yi said faintly as he glanced at the rearview mirror. There were 2 police cars behind them. Lin Yi was a bit speechless, but thinking about it, his actions were no different from racing. It was normal to get police cars. Whoa, there's police cars behind us. Lin Yi, we have to lose them. Xiao Xiao wasn't scared at all, but excited instead. I've only seen something like this in Need for Speed. Lin Yi rolled his eyes. He guessed that Xiao Xiao's background wasn't normal. She'd been able to go from high school to high school, so she must have a lot of power behind her. It was understandable that Xiao Xiao didn't care about being chased by police cars. But Lin Yi didn't want any trouble. His first goal was to save someone, not deal with police cars. What's your license plate? Song AFX 520. What's wrong? Xiao Xiao asked subconsciously. FX 520? Lin Yi thought to himself. That plate was pretty special. Feng Xiao, I love you? But this also proved that Xiao Xiao's family wasn't simple at all, being able to get a plate like this. This was much harder to get than a plate with 3 8s or 3 6s. But Lin Yi didn't say much and took out his phone to call Lingshan. Lingshan hadn't been home for a couple of days now. She was in the police force, organizing the experts to analyze the organ trafficking case. Seeing Lin Yi's phone call, he thought that Lin Yi had some clues, so he quickly picked it up. Miss Braindead, my car plate is Song AFX 520, there's a police car chasing after me, tell them to stop. Lin Yi hung up before Lingshan could reply. Lingshan stared blankly at the phone, her face filled with anger. This Lin Yi. How dare he order him to do things? The next time I see him, I must beat him until his face is full of bumps. Lingshan wasn't happy, but she didn't want to piss Lin Yi off. She called the traffic police, telling them that the AFX 520 was on duty and telling them to stop chasing. As expected, not long after Lin Yi made the call, the police cars behind them disappeared, and when they passed by the traffic police station, there were no more traffic police to stop them. Lin Yi, you're too amazing, aren't you? You did it with one phone call? Xiao Xiao's eyes widened in shock. She had some background, but even she couldn't make all the traffic police ignore her with one phone call. I'm in a hurry to save someone, Lin Yi said faintly. Don't put me in the same category as a spoiled brat like you. Yee, no matter what, you're still very handsome. Xiao Xiao waved her fist excitedly. Right, who's Miss Braindead? A friend of mine, Lin Yi said. Then why is she called Miss Braindead? Is she retarded? Xiao Xiao asked, confused. It's my nickname for her, Lin Yi explained helplessly. It wasn't a good nickname to tell people. Then why don't you give me a nickname too? Xiao Xiao felt that someone Lin Yi would give her a nickname had to be really close. Otherwise, why would Lin Yi do it with one phone call? Lin Yi was going crazy. Who would ask someone to give her a nickname? Lin Yi ignored her and kept his mouth shut. Lin Yi realized that Xiao Xiao was the type of person who'd shine with a bit of sunshine and flood with a bit of water. The more he talked to her, the more trouble she'd have. Lin Yi decided not to talk to her anymore. Xiao Xiao saw that Lin Yi was ignoring her and looked out the window, feeling wronged. When they were almost at Dunming Street, Lin Yi's phone vibrated. It was a text. Boss, I can't wait anymore. I'm going in first, they might do something to Fun. The text was from Kang Xiaobo. Lin Yi frowned. This Kang Xiaobo couldn't hold it in, going into the tiger's lair by himself. Wasn't he just causing trouble? But Lin Yi understood Kang Xiaobo's feelings. Anyone in this situation wouldn't be able to hold it in if their loved one was kidnapped. Lin Yi called Kang Xiaobo and sure enough the phone was turned off. It seemed that Kang Xiaobo had made up his mind. There was only a compound that looked like a factory near Dunming Street 7. Lin Yi didn't see any other buildings as he drove closer. This was the outskirts of the city, and other than the barren land, there was only a building a long distance away. Who's there? As soon as Lin Yi's car reached the entrance of the compound, two bulky men came out and blocked Lin Yi's way. Tourists. Lin Yi pretended to be scared, but he was calculating in his heart. This place was heavily guarded, and it didn't look like something Kang Mingming had done. If Kang Mingming just wanted to capture Fun for revenge or to vent his anger, he wouldn't have created such a heavily guarded place. Could it be another group of people? But Lin Yi was curious. Why did these people want to capture Fun? Fun shouldn't have offended anyone. This is private property, don't walk around here, leave. The bulky man looked at Lin Yi's car and saw that it was a sports car with a man and a woman in it. He believed that it was a couple, so he didn't mind and waved his hand impatiently, telling them to leave. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Lin Yi started the car and it seemed like he was going to reverse, but he suddenly stepped on the accelerator and crashed into the two bulky men. Bang, bang dash, two loud noises were heard, and the two bulky men were sent flying. They fell to the ground with blood flowing out of their mouths. Chapter 471. Chapter 471, Crash inside the courtyard, in the three tile-roofed houses in the middle. A fierce-looking one-eyed man kicked Kang Xiaobo's butt, sending him tumbling to the ground. You're sneaking around like a bad guy. You're not a reporter, are you? Kang Xiaobo was the unluckier one. He was afraid of being discovered by the two guards at the front door, so he climbed the wall from the side to enter the courtyard. His strategy wasn't a problem, but the one-eyed man was peeing at the foot of the wall when he climbed the wall. Kang Xiaobo jumped down, startling him so much that he stopped peeing. The one-eyed man was furious and dragged Kang Xiaobo into the tile-roofed house. Where's Xiaofen? Where did you take Xiaofen? Who are you people? Since he was caught, Kang Xiaobo threw caution to the wind. He straightened his neck, looking like he was ready to die a martyr's death. Xiaofen. The one-eyed man froze. What Xiaofen? What the hell are you doing? You caught my girlfriend and you're asking me what I'm doing? Kang Xiaobo raged. What are you doing? Your girlfriend? She can't be the cripple that was sent here, right? The one-eyed man remembered the cripple that had been sent here earlier. Where is she? Let her go. Kang Xiaobo wasn't afraid of anything now that he'd thrown caution to the wind. If you don't let us go, my boss will be here and it'll be your death sentence. Ha! The one-eyed man laughed as if he'd heard the funniest joke in the world. Your boss? Who do you think your boss is? Our death sentence? Since you're with that cripple, then you can be locked up together. Since you refused to take the path to heaven and chose to walk into hell, then you can be a husband and wife. I'll cut off your organs and let you share the joys and sorrows. Ha. Two loud bangs came from the yard as soon as the one-eyed man finished, followed by a series of screams. Then silence. What happened? One-eyed dragon suddenly became alert and asked a man next to him, Ertzi, lock this guy in the basement first. Is it a cop? My boss is here. You're dead meat. Kang Xiaobo had an inexplicable confidence in Lin Yi. If Lin Yi came, then he and Xiaofen would be out of danger. Your boss? One-eyed dragon breathed a sigh of relief. As long as it was not the police, it would be easy. He said to his men, Biaozi and Fei Zi at the door should have been dealt with. Let's go out and see. Then this kid. Erzi pointed at Kang Xiaobo and asked. If you want to leave it here, he won't be able to run out even if the door is locked. One-eyed dragon said indifferently, Take this guy and go out to see which idiot came to offer his kidney. Alright. Ertzi took out a shotgun from the mezzanine of a table in the house and held it in his hand. He then walked out of the tile-roofed house with One-Eyed Dragon. But the scene in front of them shocked them. Biaozi and Fei Zi were lying on the ground in a terrible state, their faces covered in blood. They were clearly dying. Looking at the yard, there was only an Audi TT sports car left. Biaozi and Fei Zi were obviously hit by this car. Motherfucker, kill them? One-Eyed Dragon panicked. This yard was usually guarded by the 4 of them, and now 2 of them were killed by a car. How could he tolerate it? They have guns. Xiao Xiao said in panic as she saw One-Eyed Dragon and Erzi coming out of the house. I told you that it's dangerous. If you're afraid, I'll leave the car with you. You can drive back now. Lin Yi looked at the pale Xiao Xiao and said faintly, I promise that no one will chase you. I'm not leaving. Xiao Xiao didn't dare to drive away by herself. She knew that following Lin Yi was the safest, and although she was a little scared, she was also a little excited. Lin Yi was like a lone hero in a movie, charging into the headquarters of a criminal organization all by himself, ready to wipe them out in one fell swoop. Lin Yi didn't say much. The moment Erzi raised his gun, he stepped on the accelerator, and the car spun in an S shape in the yard. With a bang, Erzi was sent flying and the gun was nowhere to be seen. Lin Yi didn't want to reveal too much of his strength in front of Xiao Xiao, so using the car to hit people was the best solution. One-Eyed Dragon thought that with the gun out, the people in the car in front of him would obediently surrender. After all, normal people would have an instinctive fear when they saw a gun. As long as they weren't desperados, they wouldn't act rashly. So he didn't think that Lin Yi would still dare to drive and hit Erzi, who was holding a gun, away. Feeling that the situation wasn't good, he wanted to run. He was only being paid to be a guard, and he didn't want to do something like this. He didn't want the money, he just wanted to run. But the next moment, his vision went black and he fell to the ground, unconscious. Lin Yi took off his belt and tied his hands, then used Erzi's belt to tie his legs and threw him to the side. Lin Yi had killed 3 of them already, and naturally he wouldn't leave no survivors. This one-eyed man seemed to be the leader of the group, and so Lin Yi knocked him out when he tried to run away. Xiao Xiao's eyes were wide open as she looked at Lin Yi's smooth movements, full of admiration and excitement. If Xiao Xiao was admiring Lin Yi's driving skills before, now she was admiring Lin Yi as a person. Xiao Xiao knew that even her father's bodyguards wouldn't be able to do it as cleanly as Lin Yi, taking care of the people in the yard so easily. Lin Yi walked to the tile-roofed house in the yard and kicked the door to pieces. The windows of the tile-roofed house weren't transparent, so Kang Xiaobo couldn't see what was going on outside. He jumped at the sound, but when he saw who it was, he was excited. Boss, you're here? You punk, couldn't you wait for me? What if something happened? Lin Yi scolded Kang Xiaobo. Where's Fen? I don't know, but from what they said, I think she's locked in the basement. Kang Xiaobo said. Oh, did they say why they want to capture her? Lin Yi said as he kicked open a door in the house. There was an entrance to the basement. Lin Yi smiled bitterly. He was overthinking things, thinking that the basement would be hidden. He didn't expect it to be right in front of him. But thinking about the skills of Cyclops and the others, Lin Yi understood. Chapter 472. The hideout of a criminal organization, no? But I think they said something like they were going to give us their kidneys, something about cutting out Fen and Mi's organs and making us suffer together. Xiaobo said with a shake of his head. Lin Yi paused. Kidney? Organs? Could this be the hideout of the organ trafficking organization? It couldn't be that coincidental, could it? Thinking back to what Lingshan had told him, that the organization targeted beggars, homeless people, and the disabled, Lin Yi realized that Xiaobo was a disabled person, wasn't she? The people in the slums weren't rich either. It was possible that they'd be targeted by the organ trafficking organization. Lin Yi kicked the door open, but Kang Xiaobo rushed in first. Lin Yi shook his head. Kang Xiaobo was too impatient, and he didn't know if there were more people in the basement. But Lin Yi's jade didn't warn him, so Lin Yi didn't stop him. Xiaobo. Fen wasn't expecting Kang Xiaobo to show up here. How did you get here? Fen's first thought was that Kang Xiaobo had been captured as well, but thinking about it, the door was kicked open. Could it be that Kang Xiaobo was here to save her? But there were 4 bulky men guarding here, so how did Kang Xiaobo get here? Fen raised her head and saw Lin Yi's silhouette at the door. She immediately understood that Kang Xiaobo must have gotten here with Lin Yi's help. But Fen was very touched. Although there was Lin Yi's help, Kang Xiaobo risked his life to save her, and that was enough to make her happy. To have a man who loved and cared for her like this, Fin felt that she wouldn't have any regrets in this life. Haha, I saw you get captured so I took a taxi and chased after you and called boss. Kang Xiaobo scratched his head embarrassed. If boss didn't show up in time, I might have been locked up as well. Boss, thank you. Fin called Lin Yi boss just like Kang Xiaobo. She was filled with gratitude towards Lin Yi. Lin Yi waved his hand casually. He had already acknowledged Kang Xiaobo as his follower, and Lin Yi wouldn't complain no matter how much he helped him. Lin Yi, on the other hand, was thinking about something else. In the basement, Fin wasn't alone. There were two other people sitting in the corner, avoiding eye contact. They didn't know who Kang Xiaobo and Lin Yi were, and they didn't dare ask. One of them was a 16 or 17-year-old boy, and judging from his clothes, he was probably a beggar. The other was a woman in her 30s, also a disabled person. She was dressed very simply and she was missing two arms. If there was only Fin here, Lin Yi would have thought that it was a conspiracy against Fin or Kang Xiaobo, but seeing that there were other people here, and with Kang Xiaobo's words about cutting organs, Lin Yi was certain that this was a stronghold of the organ trafficking organization. Xiao Xiao was a little scared and excited as she carefully followed behind Lin Yi. As far as she was concerned, Lin Yi was a hero who destroyed a criminal organization. Xiao Xiao usually did things that bordered on the law like fighting, racing and so on, but in her heart she admired heroes as well. It was just that she couldn't be a hero, so she looked for excitement in other ways. Now that she saw Lin Yi destroy a criminal organization all by himself, she couldn't be more excited. Lin Yi, is this a criminal organization? Maybe. Lin Yi planned to call Ling Shan and have her take over. Lin Yi wasn't a hero. His only goal here was to save Fin, and the reason why he left one alive was because he wanted to know why these people kidnapped Fin. As for other things, Lin Yi didn't care. As for whether or not he could find the organization behind this, Lin Yi didn't care. At that moment, Kang Xiaobo saw Xiao Xiao following behind Lin Yi. He couldn't help but give Lin Yi a thumbs up. It's only been a few days and he's already done with Xiao Xiao? Lin Yi saw through Kang Xiaobo's dirty thoughts and glared at him helplessly. My car's too slow, so I drove Xiao Xiao's car. Oh. Kang Xiaobo was a little disappointed. He thought that Lin Yi and Xiao Xiao were already together. Don't move, I'll make a call, Lin Yi said to Kang Xiaobo and Fin before leaving the basement. Lin Yi, on the other hand, called Ling Shan. Ling Shan looked at Lin Yi's call and really wanted to hang up. She was already annoyed enough, and Lin Yi was still bothering her with some small stuff. Hey, what else is there? I already talked to the traffic police, didn't the cars leave already? Ling Shan roared furiously. She didn't want to pick up the call, but she knew that she couldn't offend Lin Yi too much, but she could at least complain a little, right? She continued, don't you know that I'm very busy? I haven't slept well for days because of the case. Oh, I found a suspected organ trafficking organization's hideout. Since you're busy, I'm leaving, Lin Yi said and hung up. Wah. Ling Shan paused. Suspected organ trafficking organization's hideout? Lin Yi found it? Ling Shan stood up subconsciously. Wait a minute, but she realized that Lin Yi had hung up on her. Ling Shan gritted her teeth in anger, but her heart was thumping with excitement as well. If what Lin Yi said was true, then wouldn't she have all the clues that had been bothering her for a long time? The officers all looked at Ling Shan, confused. They looked at her with questioning eyes, but she didn't explain. I'll go back to my office for a bit. With that, Ling Shan ran back to her office, closed the door and called Lin Yi back as fast as she could. Ha, I thought you weren't interested. Lin Yi smiled as he picked up the phone. Don't be angry, I'm just excited, I'm not in a good mood. Good man, tell Miss Braindead where's the hideout? Ling Shan's hair stood on end from her own whining voice, but there was nothing she could do. This Lin Yi could be persuaded but not cowed. She had no choice but to swallow her pride and ask for help from him. Ha, Dunming Street, Deputy 7th. You better come yourself, drive a big car. Lin Yi said. Chapter 473. The breakup feeling. Shan couldn't help but frown at the scene in the yard. These people are dead? I ran them over, Lin Yi explained faintly. How could you just kill people like that? As a police. Naturally, Ling Shan didn't like what Lin Yi was doing. They had guns. If I didn't run them over, why would I wait for them to shoot me? Lin Yi rolled his eyes. I told you to do it yourself so you can deal with it. Ling Shan nodded. Lin Yi had a point, and Lin Yi had at least left one of them alive. That made her happy. She quickly made a statement for Fin, the beggar, and the disabled woman before letting them into the police car. She'd be sending them back later. Fin, on the other hand, went with Lin Yi. The back seat of the Audi TT was very small, but Kang Xiaobo and Fin had to squeeze in the back. Ling Shan was left to clean up the scene and Lin Yi left. Actually, even if Lin Yi went to the police station to make a statement, it wouldn't be a big deal. It wasn't just self-defense, but Lin Yi didn't like trouble. It'd be a lot easier if Ling Shan took care of it herself, and he'd be able to give the girl some credit. On the way back, Lin Yi slowed down the car since there wasn't anything urgent. Xiao Xiao was a little unhappy. Lin Yi, why are you driving so slow? If you think it's slow, you can drive. Lin Yi said faintly. You drive. Xiao Xiao was a little annoyed. She wanted to see Lin Yi drive again, but that wasn't possible anymore. Tang Yun went back to the classroom and thought about what happened this morning. She thought it was fake, but the more she thought about it, the more worried she got. Did Xiao Xiao really have something to do with Lin Yi? Thinking about Xiao Xiao suddenly transferring to Songshan Songshan and sitting next to Lin Yi, Tang Yun felt a little annoyed. If Xiao Xiao had nothing to do with Lin Yi, why would she bother Lin Yi every day? She clearly knew that Lin Yi's girlfriend was her, but she still dared to say those words to Lin Yi in front of her. Could it be that what she said in the morning was true? Otherwise, why would a girl sully her own reputation by saying that she had a relationship with Lin Yi and might be pregnant? Let Lin Yi take her to the hospital for a checkup? Tang Yin thought that even if she had that kind of relationship with Lin Yi, she couldn't just let everyone know, could she? Unless she was threatened by external factors and was in a hurry to announce her relationship with Lin Yi, then she would throw caution to the wind. Was Xiao Xiao's situation the same way? If it weren't for her relationship with Lin Yi, she wouldn't have said these things, would she? Since she was shameless enough to say these things, did it mean that there was something going on between her and Lin Yi? Tang Yun's mind was a mess, filled with the scene from this morning. She didn't want to believe that Lin Yi would fall in love with someone else, but Xiao Xiao's words hinted that Lin Yi didn't fall in love with someone else. He was with Xiao Xiao first and then with her. Otherwise, Tang Yun wouldn't believe that Xiao Xiao would fall in love with Lin Yi just a few days after transferring, and even have that kind of relationship with him. The only possibility was that Lin Yi and Xiao Xiao knew each other from before. Thinking back to the time when she asked Lin Yi about their relationship, and Lin Yi only said that Xiao Xiao had seen him drive before and wanted to learn from him, Tang Yun's frown deepened. Learning to drive. Just learning to drive? Why did she have to go through so much trouble to be in the same class as Lin Yi? Tang Yun took out her phone and looked at it. There were no missed calls, no messages. Why wasn't Lin Yi looking for her? Just like that, Tang Yun endured until the end of the first period, and still didn't get a call from Lin Yi, nor did she get a message from Lin Yi. She waited in the classroom for a long time, but Lin Yi still didn't come looking for her. When they separated in the morning, Tang Yun told Lin Yi that he would look for her after the first period. But even when the bell rang, Lin Yi wasn't there. Tang Yun's mind was a mess. Could it be that what happened this morning was real? Tang Yun was regretting it. If she had known this would happen, she would have ignored her pride and continued to see what Xiao Xiao had to say. However, at that time he couldn't let go of his pride, so he left first. In the second period, Tang Yun didn't even react to the teacher's question, and she didn't know how she got through it. After class, Tang Yun couldn't take it anymore. How could Lin Yi do this? Even if he had something to do with Xiao Xiao, shouldn't he at least give her an explanation? He didn't even say anything. What did he think she was? Tang Yun was a little pissed off, but she gathered her courage and went to Lin Yi's classroom. She pulled a classmate over and asked him to call Lin Yi out for her. Tang Yun wanted to ask Lin Yi face to face. What did he mean by this? The whole school knew about Lin Yi and Tang Yun, so no one thought it was strange for Tang Yun to come looking for Lin Yi. The classmate looked around the classroom and said, "Lin Yi isn't here." Tang Yun paused, not sure why, but she asked again, "Then is Xiao Xiao here?" The student looked around and shook his head at Tang Yun. "Feng Xiao Xiao isn't here either." "Oh, thank you." Tang Yun's eyes were sore and she wanted to cry. Lin Yi wasn't here and Xiao Xiao wasn't here either. How could these two not be here at the same time? Could it be that they really went out together? Tang Yun stumbled at the thought of this possibility, almost falling to the ground. She quickly grabbed the wall to steady herself. She didn't think that there was something going on between Lin Yi and Xiao Xiao, but now she was even more suspicious. She thought back to what Xiao Xiao said to her this morning. "Didn't Lin Yi give you a breakup fee? I've known Lin Yi for a long time, and I wanted to make you a mistress out of pity, sharing Lin Yi with you, but you didn't know what was good for you, so I had to let Lin Yi be with you for nothing." Tang Yun felt wronged. Wait, breakup fee? Tang Yun suddenly remembered that Lin Yi seemed to have given her mother something this morning. Could it be the breakup fee Xiao Xiao was talking about? Tang Yun called her mother's number and took a deep breath, pretending to be calm. "Mom, where are you?" Chapter 474. It was a misunderstanding. That was 500,000. Mrs. Tang had never seen so much money in her life, She'd been over the moon when Lin Yi gave her 200,000. Although 150,000 was to pay off Wang Luwei's debt, it was still Lin Yi's money. It meant that Lin Yi cared about Tang Yun. Mrs. Tang was smiling happily at the bank card in her hand. She was in an indescribably good mood. Suddenly her phone rang, startling her. She picked it up and saw that it was her daughter calling. When Tang Yun asked her where she was, Mrs. Tang didn't think much about it and said that she was at the bank. She regretted it after she said it. Lin Yi had been secretive when he gave her the money, not wanting Tang Yun to know. But now that she'd exposed it, she hoped that her daughter wouldn't suspect anything. I wanted to see how much money we had left after your dad was hospitalized so we could figure out how big of a retail space we could buy. Mrs. Tang explained. Mom, how much did Lin Yi give you this morning? Tang Yun's heart tightened. She'd suspected that Lin Yi had given her mother money, and now that her mother was in the bank, she was even more certain. So Tang Yun didn't even ask if Lin Yi had given her mother money. She only asked how much to show that she already knew about it and that her mother didn't need to hide it anymore. Ah. Mrs. Tang paused. Her daughter already knew? She didn't think that her daughter was lying to her. She hesitated. 500,000? What? 500,000. Tang Yun's body felt like it was going to collapse. It was as if all the energy in her body had been sucked out by her mother's words. Her phone fell to the floor with a bang, the back cover and battery separating. Tang Yun didn't seem to notice it at all. Her body swayed, and she would have fainted if it weren't for the fact that she was holding onto the wall. Tears rolled down his cheeks. Sure enough, he had given his mother a lot of money. 500,000, that was 500,000. It was enough for his family to buy a retail house. Why would Lin Yi give his family 500,000 yuan for no reason? The last time his father had an operation he only took out 200,000 yuan, including the money he gave to Xiaowei. But this time he took out 500,000 yuan. What did this mean? Tang Yun's first thought was the breakup fee Xiao mentioned this morning. Only a breakup fee would Lin Yi give them so much money, right? As expected, as expected. Tang Yun leaned against the wall as tears rolled down her cheeks. What? Why would Lin Yi bother him when he had Xiao? Or was it that he was too stupid and naive, thinking that he was different from those hedonistic young masters, but in reality he was no different from them? Thinking about Xiao Fan's experience, Lin Yi's actions didn't need any explanation. Lin Yi, I hate you. Tang Yun bit her lips, not knowing what to do or what to do. What's wrong, Yun? What are you doing? Who's bullying you? Xinwen came out of the washroom to see Tang Yun crying against the wall, her phone on the ground in pieces. Xinwen. Tang Yun forced a smile when she saw Xinwen. It's nothing. I'm just a little dizzy. Dizzy? Why are you crying if you're dizzy? Xinwen didn't believe her. Did someone bully you? Yun, tell me, I'll chop him up with a cleaver. Xinwen had been this fierce since she was young, and she was still the same now. It's nothing, it's really nothing. Tang Yun naturally wouldn't tell Xinwen about her sadness, even if she was her best friend. She was abandoned by Lin Yi. How could she say that? Xinwen was the one who told her to stay away from Lin Yi, but she didn't listen. Now she was at a loss, wasn't she? Xinwen saw that Tang Yun didn't want to talk about it, so she picked up the phone parts and stuffed them into Tang Yun's hands. Thank you. Tang Yun wasn't in the mood to check if the phone was broken or not, so she stuffed it into her pocket. Yun, if you're wronged, you have to tell me, I'll help you. Xinwen said worriedly. Thank you. But I'm really fine. Tang Yun shook her head. Xinwen helped Tang Yun back to the classroom and the bell rang. Xinwen couldn't ask any more, so she sighed and went back to her seat. On the way back to school, Lin Yi looked at the time on the dashboard and suddenly remembered that the first class had already ended, and Tang Yun still wanted to find him. Was she worried? Of course, Lin Yi didn't think too much about it because from Tang Yun's expression this morning, although she was a little angry, it was far from suspicion, so Lin Yi wasn't worried. How could he know that the 500,000 he gave to Mrs. Tang was taken as a breakup fee by Tang Yun? If he knew it would be like this, he wouldn't have done it. He took out his phone and dialed Tang Yun's number, but the phone was turned off, which surprised Lin Yi. Could this girl be angry because I didn't look for her after class? Boss, are you calling sis-in-law? Kang Xiaobo saw that Lin Yi was on the phone and he could guess who it was. I promised Tang Yun that I would find her after the first class, but I missed it because I saved you. Lin Yi smiled bitterly. Oh, no way? Then wouldn't I be the greatest sinner? Kang Xiaobo was shocked and quickly said, Boss, do you need me to explain to her? No need, I'll explain. Lin Yi smiled. He didn't have the habit of letting others testify. From his perspective, it wasn't a big deal, so he didn't mind. Tang Yun was angry? Xiao, on the other hand, was secretly delighted as she clenched her fists. This was great. She'd finally pissed Tang Yun off. It seemed like the move she used this morning wasn't bad. She'd have to use it more often in the future. Lin Yi called Tang Yun's phone and found that it was turned off, so he put the phone on the dashboard, and just as he put it down, the phone rang. Lin Yi thought it was Tang Yun calling back, but it was Fatty Lai. Hello? Fatty Lai? Lin Yi picked up the phone. Chapter 475. Let you know. Oh? What good news? Lin Yi paused, guessing that there was some progress with the medicine company. Boss, I'm at Professor Guan's. Are you free? If you have time, come over and tell me in detail. It's about the auction, Fatty Lai said. Alright, I'll come over now. Lin Yi looked at the time. He'd already skipped most of the morning's classes, so he didn't mind skipping a bit more. Then I'll wait for you here. Fatty Lai hung up excitedly. I still have something to do later. Xiao Xiao, can you send Kang Xiaobo and Fan back? Lin Yi asked as he looked at Xiao Xiao. Sure, go do what you need to do. Xiao Xiao was laughing inside, thinking that it was better if he didn't go back to school now. Tang Yun would get angrier and angrier, and she'd break up with him if she couldn't see him. Lin Yi didn't think that much about it. He didn't know what Xiao Xiao was thinking. He drove to the entrance of Songshan Medical University and got out of the car. Cars weren't allowed in the residential area of the school, and unfamiliar cars had to be registered. It was Xiao Xiao's first time here, so Lin Yi didn't bother and walked over. Xiao Xiao sat in the driver's seat, pleased with herself as she drove Kang Xiaobo and Fan to the slums. She wanted to send Fan back first, and on the way she'd ask Kang Xiaobo about Lin Yi. Xiaobo, can you tell me more about Lin Yi? Xiao Xiao asked as she drove. Boss. Xiaobo didn't feel like there was anything wrong with that, so he started rambling on and on. Lingshan waited for Lin Yi to leave before calling the team over, quickly surrounding Dunmeng Street 7. Lu Wangli jumped out of the police car and looked at the 3 dead and 1 injured on the ground, as well as the 2 rescued victims. He gave Lingshan a thumbs up. Captain Song, you're way too amazing. You found the organ trafficking organization's hideout in one go? Aye. Lingshan's face reddened at Lu Wangli's compliment. She coughed a couple of times. According to my initial observations, this isn't the main base of the criminal organization. It's just a transfer point where the beggars, homeless people, and handicapped people are sent here and await the next step of the criminal operation. That's still amazing. Our team searched the whole city without sleep, but we didn't find any clues. Captain Song is really something. Another senior captain in the criminal police team also said with admiration. That's right, Captain Song. When Lingshan was the captain of the city's criminal police team, these captains weren't very happy with her. But after Lingshan solved several big cases in a row, along with her first place in the police tournament, they were all very impressed with her. Lingshan, on the other hand, was blushing a little. Thinking about how she'd gotten all this information just by acting cute to Lin Yi, Lingshan felt really ashamed. She felt like she'd lied to someone else about how she'd gotten all the credit. Lingshan didn't know how to explain herself in front of everyone's praises, so she turned to Lu Wangli. Lu Wangli, send the 2 victims back first, the rest of you send the suspect to the hospital. Lingshan sighed as she looked at the busy workers. Was her life a failure? Now that she wasn't relying on Huaijuan anymore, she had to rely on Lin Yi. But when she thought about it, this was her own ability. Other people didn't know who Lin Yi was, and she was the only one who could get Lin Yi's help. No matter what the process was, the result would be the same, and that was enough. As for her acting cute to Lin Yi and calling him Miss Braindead, she could just treat it as a joke between friends. She didn't have to worry too much about it. Many of her colleagues had nicknames too, and they weren't all that nice, like Fierce Bull or Iron Bullet. Her nickname was only for Lin. Lingshan knew that she was just comforting herself, but it still made her feel a lot better. Lin Yi arrived at Xuemin's house. Fatty Lai was sitting on the sofa, talking to Xuemin excitedly, but Xuemin didn't interrupt, only nodding with a smile. Xuemin knew that Fatty Lai wasn't good at business, so he only listened to Fatty Lai's point of view and didn't interfere. After all, different professions were worlds apart. He was famous in the medical world, but that didn't mean he was good at other things. It'd be disgusting if he were to criticize others. Boss, you're here. Fatty Lai jumped up from the sofa excitedly when he saw Lin Yi. You're quite agile. Lin Yi was a little puzzled. Fatty Lai seemed to have a spring on his butt, jumping up with a whoosh. It wouldn't be a big deal if he didn't have such a fat body, but it was rare to see someone so agile with such a fat body. I've been working out. Fatty Lai said. But my genes aren't good, I get fat just from drinking water. I've been trying to lose weight but I just can't. Oh, it's your genes? I'll help you adjust them when I'm free, Lin Yi said faintly. Fatty Lai jumped up in shock, looking at Lin Yi in disbelief. Boss, you're saying that jeans can be adjusted? Yes, Lin Yi nodded. But I like you because you're chubby. Then I won't adjust them, this is good. Fatty Lai changed his mind after hearing that Lin Yi liked him. Lose a little more weight, Lin Yi smiled. When my company is on the right track, I'll perform acupuncture on you when I'm free. Actually, performing acupuncture on Fatty Lai was a piece of cake, and he could do it anytime. He could even perform acupuncture while talking. The problem was that Lin Yi didn't really trust Fatty Lai yet. He didn't treat him as a true confidant, so he wasn't in a rush to give him any benefits. He'd observe him for a while before deciding. Okay boss, you're too good to me. Sup? Fatty Lai was so emotional that he started crying again. Lin Yi was speechless. It seemed like he couldn't change his crybaby habit. He couldn't cure it. It was a personality problem. Hey boss, don't be angry. I was so emotional that I started crying. Okay, I won't cry anymore. Fatty Lai suddenly remembered that Lin Yi didn't want him to cry, so he quickly stopped. Chapter 476. Matters for the auction. Fatty Lai returned to normal after Lin Yi sat on the sofa, smiling as he took out a brochure from his briefcase and handed it to Lin Yi. Boss, take a look at this. Lin Yi took the brochure from Fatty Lai and flipped through it. Auction. Lin Yi took a look and realized that it was a brochure introducing the auction, and the venue was Yanjing City. That's right. Fatty Lai nodded. But this isn't a normal auction. It's a super auction that all the noble houses attend, and it's held once a year. Lin Yi paused. He didn't expect this auction to be so influential, and Fatty Lai must have some power if he could get his hands on a brochure for this auction. Mr. Lai is right. I know about this auction. They send me an invitation every year, but I've never attended it before. Xuemin smiled self-deprecatingly. With Xuemin's current status, he was the target of all the noble houses. A miracle doctor was far more useful than a profitable business partner. What was the use of money if he was dead? Therefore, in order to show how much the aristocratic families valued Guan Xuemin, they would send him more than one invitation every year. However, Guan Xuemin had always been an honest person, so he wouldn't charge exorbitant medical fees. Naturally, he wouldn't attend any auction. This time Professor Guan must go. Fatty Lai said with a smile. If I'd known that you had so many invitations and that you could bring people along, I wouldn't have wasted so much effort to get you an invitation. Ha! Lin Yi smiled. Fatty Lai had wanted to show off when he got the invitation, but he didn't expect Xuemin to have several of them. He wasn't in the mood to show off right away. In this auction, only some rare treasures are being auctioned. Only the financial resources of the various aristocratic families can afford to buy these things. Fatty Lai said, of course, other than the traditional aristocratic families participating, there will also be some new entrepreneurs invited. These people also have a lot of potential. You're saying that we'll be auctioning the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing at this auction? Lin Yi had a rough idea of Fatty Lai's intentions. That's right. Everyone who attends this auction is rich. As long as they're willing to chase after us, it'll be hard for our products not to be sold out. Fatty Lai said. Alright, you can decide. Lin Yi nodded. Since Fatty Lai was in charge, if he said it could be done, then it would be done. It's great following you, boss. Fatty Lai was so happy that Lin Yi wasn't interfering at all. He almost cried again, but he managed to hold it in. Boss, I've booked 3 tickets for tonight. We'll leave for Yanjing in a bit. So urgent. Lin Yi paused. Isn't the auction 3 days from now? That's for the auction. It's fine if we're just going to buy stuff, even if it's a day or 2 later, Fatty Lai said. But we're going to sell stuff at the auction as well, so we'll have to leave early. We need to submit it in advance. I see. Lin Yi nodded, following Fatty Lai's arrangements. He told Peng Zhan and the Mist that he had something to do and would be away for a few days. Peng Zhan naturally didn't say anything, but Meng Yao on the other hand replied nonchalantly. Mind your identity, don't flirt with other girls. Ha. Lin Yi shook his head at Meng Yao's message and called Tang Yun. Unfortunately, Tang Yun's phone was still turned off. Lin Yi could only send a message to Tang Yun, explaining that there was nothing going on between him and Xiao Xiao, and that he had to go to the auction in Yanjing and bring her a gift. At the same time in Dr. Kang's house. Dr. Kang, naturally, received an invitation to the auction as well. Although House Kang wasn't even considered a low-level noble house, they were still the head of the company. Naturally, they would be part of the auction. Plus, House Kang would bring out some stuff for the auction every year. Why is the auction early this year? Dr. Kang looked at the invitation in his hand curiously. Yeah, father, it's always August every year. I wonder what's up with House U this year. Kang Guifeng nodded, confused. Silence. Dr. Kang glared at Kang Guifeng. House U's business is not something you can talk about. There's no outsiders here. Kang Guifeng knew that he said something wrong, but he still tried to defend himself. No outsiders? It'll be bad if there are outsiders. You're putting us in a position where we can't recover from. Dr. Kang humphed coldly. Don't even think about this in the future. We're at a crucial stage of becoming a noble house. Don't cause trouble. It's just the two of us now, but you're used to saying it. What if you say it out loud when you go out? Wouldn't that ruin everything? Yes, father. I was wrong. Kang Guifeng quickly apologized. No matter why House U brought forward the auction this time, we House Kang still have to participate. Dr. Kang humphed. This time I'll go with you and Xiaolong to Yanjing. We'll go to Xiao family first to propose marriage and then we'll go to the auction. Yes, father. Kang Guifeng nodded. The items for the auction this year, are we going to prepare the same as last year's? Yes, but we have to prepare an extra portion as a betrothal gift to Xiao family. Dr. Kang said. Prepare it as soon as possible, we'll be leaving tomorrow. Don't worry, father. Kang Guifeng nodded. Dr. Kang trusted Kang Guifeng. This eldest son was much more reliable than his youngest son. He hoped that this trip to Yanjing would not only be able to get the support of Xiao family, but also earn a fortune from the auction. Every year, House Kang would prepare a few portions of golden creation at the auction. It was highly sought after by all the noble houses, and usually sold for a sky-high price. This was also one of the sources of income for House Kang every year. However, the so-called golden creation medicine was just a normal golden creation medicine that wasn't diluted. At most, some of the ingredients were older and more effective. Chapter 477. Chapter 477. Return it to him. Xiao Xiao happily went back to school, looking for a chance to use Lin Yi's incident to attack Tang Yun. Lin Yi wasn't in school, and Tang Yun wouldn't even have a chance to confront him. Oh. Xiao Xiao started laughing happily. She walked quickly to Class 9's door, and was about to call Tang Yun out to talk to her when her phone rang in her pocket. Only Xiao Xiao dared to set her phone to ringtone in school, the others had to be careful even if it was vibrating. Jifeng had just finished checking the 12th grader's discipline, and he was walking past the hallway when he heard the ringtone. He was about to explode when he saw that it was Xiao Xiao. He lowered his head helplessly and pretended not to see it, walking away quickly. Sometimes Jifeng felt that being the dean was a bit of a burden. There were two special students in the school that he couldn't control. One was Lin Yi and the other was Xiao Xiao. This was too fucked up, he could only pretend he didn't see anything. But Xiao Xiao just had to raise her head and greet Jifeng, her voice sweet. Mr. Wang, Lin Yi has something to do these next couple of days, he can't come to school. He asked me to help him get a leave. She was standing in front of Tang Yun's classroom, not far from Tang Yun's window. The window wasn't closed and Tang Yun heard it loud and clear. She froze. She was lying on her desk, not paying attention to what was going on outside, but she raised her head upon hearing Xiao Xiao's voice. Her heart froze when she heard that Xiao Xiao was applying for leave for Lin Yi. So, they really had something going on? Oh, okay. Wang Jifeng answered gloomily and quickly turned around to leave. Xiao Xiao's face turned cold as well. She looked at the caller ID and quickly ran to the bathroom to pick it up. What's up? Xiao Xiao, you should go to the hospital today. A middle-aged man's voice came from the other side. Hospital? What hospital? I'm going to die anyway, I'm going to waste my life there? Xiao Xiao was getting agitated all of a sudden as if she was really against it. Didn't the doctor say that there's a chance of recovery? The middle-aged man said after a pause. Listen to their bullshit. You said mom wouldn't die, but look what happened? Xiao Xiao was even more agitated. My mom, my auntie, it's the same. You don't have time to accompany me, so please don't waste my life, okay? I'm sorry. The middle-aged man sighed. But Dad has work to do. But this time, Dad's colleague helped me contact an expert. I will send a car to pick you up later. No, I'm not going. I haven't played enough. How much time do I have left? You put me in the hospital for 2 months. How many more months do I have to waste? Xiao Xiao yelled at the other side of the phone before smashing the phone on the ground, panting with rage. The middle-aged man helplessly put down the phone in his hand. Although he also wanted to accompany his daughter often, the nature of his work gave him little time to rest 365 days a year. Xiao Xiao's chest was heaving up and down as she put her hands on the windowsill, looking at the students playing on the field. She held back the tears that were about to fall. I can't cry, I'm Xiao Xiao. Go Xiao Xiao. After calming down for a while, she heard a sound from the bathroom door. She quickly collected her emotions and picked up the phone before walking out of the bathroom calmly. Tang Yun was feeling really bad, and she didn't want to embarrass herself in the classroom. She stumbled to the bathroom to wash her face and calm down, only to see Xiao Xiao walking out. She jumped and yelped, looking at Xiao Xiao with wariness and hostility. Tang Yin didn't know what to do at a time like this, nor did she have any experience like this. At the end of the day, she was just an 18-year-old girl, a 12th grader. She'd never met a love rival before, and her mind was a blank. Xiao Xiao was much calmer than Tang Yun. She looked at Tang Yun and smiled. I'm going on a honeymoon with Lin Yi. He gave you the breakup fee, right? Xiao Xiao knew that her father would still send someone to pick her up, and Lin Yi had something to do. She disappeared as well so she could use this chance to make Tang Yun misunderstand. He did, but I don't want it. I'll give it back to him. Tang Yun bit her lip and raised her head to look at Xiao Xiao stubbornly. Tell him that I hate him. Alright, I'll tell him. Xiao Xiao blinked. Breakup fee? Why did she really give a breakup fee? What was going on? But as weird as it was, Xiao Xiao put on a look of understanding and smiled at Tang Yun. But I suggest you keep the money. I don't want it. Tang Yun looked at Xiao Xiao's back, tears welling up in her eyes. She didn't know if it was because she felt wronged, or because she was mourning this first love that died before it even started. In the afternoon, a black Audi A6L with a special plate stopped in front of Songshan's first school. Captain Feng, we've arrived, the driver reminded the middle-aged man who was resting behind the car. Oh, we're here already? That fast? The man opened his eyes and one could clearly see the red veins in his eyes. It was obvious that he was exhausted. Turn off the air conditioner and open the window. Yes. The driver turned off the air conditioner and opened the window. The middle-aged man called Captain Feng, took out his mobile phone and dialed a number. When the call was connected, he said, Xiao Xiao, I'm at the gate of your school. How many days is it this time? Xiao Xiao knew that she couldn't hide from this. Whether she rejected or not, her father would come to get her. The phone was quite sturdy and it didn't break. Xiao Xiao's phone was a custom-made device her father gave her. It had a GPS system and was very sturdy. 2 or 3 days. It'll be quick after a checkup and I can bring the medicine back, Captain Feng said after some hesitation. Alright, wait for me, Xiao Xiao said happily. Ah. Captain Feng was confused. When had his daughter ever been this happy? Every time she went to the hospital, she'd do everything she could to convince her and even grab her, but this time. Chapter 478. Chapter 478, Marriage Proposal, Part 1. No, I'll be waiting for you then. Captain Feng was a little puzzled. What was wrong with his daughter today? Why was she acting so weird? But since Xiao Xiao wanted to come, there was no need for him to say anything else. The reason why Xiao Xiao agreed so quickly was because Lin Yi wasn't at school, and she had to leave as well. One could only imagine how depressed Tang Yun would be. Going against her? That would be a tragic ending. Xiao Xiao waved her fist and went downstairs. She saw the Audi A6L parked outside the school gates, and didn't say anything as she got in the car. Xiao Xiao, the doctor this time is your dad's colleague, an expert in genetic diseases. Captain Feng waited for Xiao Xiao to get in the car before looking at her kindly. His name was Feng Tianlong, a special agent. He couldn't be by Xiao Xiao's side every day due to his work. It was a little regretful, but he didn't regret it. Since he'd chosen this path, he had to walk it down. Oh, another specialist, Xiao Xiao replied faintly. Xiao Xiao nodded faintly. She'd seen too many experts since she was young, but they'd always come back disappointed. Xiao Xiao was pretty much numb to it already. Rather than wasting time with doctors, she'd rather spend her youth and life. At least she wouldn't regret it even if she died. Tianlong shook his head. His daughter's attitude was within his expectations and he didn't say anything else. In fact, he didn't have much confidence, but as long as there was a sliver of hope, he wanted his daughter to live healthily. The plane slowly landed in Yanjing and Lin Yi, Fatty Lai, and Fatty Lai got off the plane and checked into the hotel Fatty Lai had booked. Boss, we're auctioning 3 pills of life extension and toxin cleansing this time. Isn't that a little too little? Fatty Lai asked carefully. Rare things are precious. Plus, it's not all for the money. It's mainly for the fame. Lin Yi smiled. I see. Fatty Lai knew that Lin Yi was speaking the truth, but he had his own selfish motives. If there were only 3 pills of life extension and toxin cleansing, then his chances of getting one would be a little low. If there were more, then wouldn't he still have a chance? Of course he couldn't say this to Lin Yi, so Fatty Lai could only swallow it. With Fatty Lai's help, the procedures for the auction were easily taken care of. All they had to do was provide the auction items, the base price and so on, and the auction would be completed. Even the organizer of the auction did not force the seller to go through the appraisal. The appraisal was voluntary and one could apply for it or not. Obviously, the organizer also knew that some rare treasures couldn't be identified on the spot, and those who could participate in this auction were all celebrities. No one was willing to come up with something fake to tarnish their reputation. It was true that there were cases of shoddy goods being passed off as quality goods, but this kind of transaction would also damage the seller's reputation. As the organizer, House Yu, was not a force to be trifled with. Rumor had it that a few years ago there was a seller who passed off shoddy goods as quality goods, and House Yu ended up bankrupting him. But for Fatty Lai's unknown pill that had never been on the market before, no matter how miraculous his description was, the organizer still set a relatively low price for him. 1 million. Fatty Lai didn't want to explain further. 1 million it was. The pill wouldn't be sold for a cheap price anyway. Forget 1 million, even if it was 100 million, he'd take it without hesitation. Yinjing City Xiao family. Dr. Kong brought Kong Guifeng and Kong Xiaolong to visit the two brothers of the Xiao family, Xiao Ji and Xiao Ben. The old man of the Xiao family had passed away and Xiao Ji and Xiao Ben had become poor kids. Although the Xiao family was still a low-class noble house, the two brothers were pleasantly surprised by Dr. Kang's personal visit. Dr. Kong, you could have just asked Brother Guifeng to come. Why did you come yourself? You're giving our Xiao family too much face. Xiao Ji was very excited about Dr. Kang's visit. As long as the marriage with House Kong was successful, the Xiao family would be able to get a loan from the bank, as well as the support of their business partners. By then, the situation of the Xiao family would be reversed. Isn't it just in time for House Yu's auction, so I came along? Dr. Kong smiled. House Yu's auction. Xiao Ji paused. Isn't the auction held in August every year? It's earlier this year, don't you know? Dr. Kong was taken aback as well. The Xiao family may be a low-class noble house, but they should still be invited to the auction. Why did they look like they didn't know? He knew even when he was out of town, but the local Xiao family didn't know? I know. Ha, big brother, the invitation is with me. I was dealing with the funeral of the old man, so I put this matter aside. I forgot to mention it. Xiao Ben was a smart man. After a trace of haze flashed across his face, he said with a smile. Xiao Ben was just lying. In fact, the Xiao family didn't receive the invitation, and that was what pissed him off the most. With the old man's death, they didn't send an invitation. What was House Yu thinking? I see, so it's with you. I thought they forgot about us. Xiao Ji smiled and nodded. It's brought forward. I wonder if Elder Kong has anything that you're determined to get in this auction? Well, the auction list is only released on the day of the auction. I don't know about that. Dr. Kong smiled and shook his head. Xiao Ben felt sad again. Once upon a time, when the Xiao family was at its peak, they could get most of the auction listings a few days before the auction. How awesome were he and his brother back then? When the time comes, I'll definitely get it. But now, they didn't even bother to send out an invitation. The Xiao family may be poor, but they were still a low-class noble house. How could they look down on them like this? Of course. Xiao Ben saw that his brother was about to brag about his past achievements and quickly stopped him. We probably won't be able to bid for anything when the time comes. We might not even be able to attend the auction. There's too much to do at home. Xiao Ben made up an excuse for not being able to attend. Right, Guifeng, where's our gift? Dr. Kong looked at Kong Guifeng. Here. Kong Guifeng waved at Xiaolong, who was at the door. Xiaolong quickly walked over. Uncle Xiao, second Uncle Xiao, this is a box of golden creation ointment. It's just a small gift. Xiaolong said respectfully as he presented the box politely. Chapter 479. Chapter 479 Marriage Proposal, Part 2. They wouldn't have cared about 10 million if it were any other time, but right now they couldn't be more excited. This young man is Kong Xiaolong, right? What a handsome man. Xiao Ji said to Xiaolong as he accepted the box with a smile on his face. Uncle Xiao, I'm Kong Xiaolong. Xiaolong said politely. Yes, he's a good match for our Xinyan. Xiao Ben nodded as well, annoyed at his niece for not knowing her place. House Kong was such a powerful family after all. Why wasn't she interested? They tried to persuade her for a few days, but she still wouldn't agree. Xiao Ben and Xiao Ji were helpless. At the end of the day, Xinyan was just a distant relative, not a direct descendant of the Xiao family. They couldn't ask for anything. House arrest wasn't the way to go, they had to let her go. Xinyan's parents, on the other hand, were a bit against the marriage at first, but Wang Shubin fell silent after hearing that the man was Dr. Kang's grandson. Qin Lin, on the other hand, didn't have much of an opinion. She'd been listening to Wang Shubin all these years, and now that Wang Shubin had agreed, she had no objections. The most important thing was that Xiao Ji and Xiao Ben had said that if they agreed to the marriage, they'd give up on the shares mentioned in the old man's will. But if they didn't agree, they'd take back a portion of the shares from Wang Shubin's company, and they'd threaten to ally with House Kong against his medicine company. Now Xiao Ji and Xiao Ben were glad that Xinyan was the only one who was against the marriage. There wouldn't be any problems as long as they got through to her. Where's that Wang Xinyan? Why don't you call her out so I can see my future granddaughter-in-law? Dr. Kong asked, smiling as he sat on the sofa. As a grandfather, he was quite satisfied with this granddaughter-in-law, despite the fact that this was a political marriage. I'll go get her now. Xiao Ben gave his brother a look before walking into the living room. I say, sis, brother-in-law, did you guys really get through to my niece's thoughts? Dr. Kong himself came to our house to propose marriage. This isn't something just anyone can do. Xiao Ben said as he looked at Wang Shubin and Qin Lin, who were standing in front of Xinyan's room. Little Yin doesn't agree. I think it's fine. Although Xiao Qinlin didn't have any opinions, she still loved her daughter very much. Seeing that her daughter was unhappy, she naturally didn't want to get married. Or you're a woman with long hair but short knowledge. Xiao Ben was stunned and said with some annoyance, what kind of family does Dr. Kong come from? His eldest grandson Kong Xiaolong is the future heir of House Kong. How could Xinyan lose out by marrying him? Qinlin, I've heard of this Xiaolong before. He's an excellent student, and he doesn't have a single bad habit. I've heard that he hasn't even had a girlfriend. I think he won't mistreat Xinyan, Wang Shubin said. Although he was afraid that something would happen to the company, he didn't want his daughter to be unhappy in the future, so he secretly got someone to investigate Xiaolong. The results of the investigation surprised him. Was this really a rich young master? He had been studying since he was young, and now that he had a PhD, he still had to continue his studies. Most importantly, he didn't have the habit of fooling around with women like other rich young masters. He didn't have a girlfriend since he was young. This was a world of difference between him and his cousin Kong Mingming. So after getting the report, Wang Shubin didn't reject the marriage anymore. Where else could he find such a good son-in-law? Not only was he good at his studies, he had a good character, and most importantly, he had a good family background. With Miracle Dr. Kang's support, there was no need to worry about the development of his medicine chain company. Is that so? But little Yen doesn't like him. They've never met before, how could they have a relationship? Xiao Qinlin knew that Xiaolong was a good person, so she didn't reject him. But thinking about how her daughter didn't have feelings for him, she still hesitated. Can't feelings be cultivated? Plus, this is just an engagement. If things really don't work out, we can call it off, Xiao Ben said. Right now, we're just using this marriage as an excuse to get some benefits for both of us. Let the two of them get to know each other first, and maybe they'll develop feelings for each other. I see. Xiao Qinlin thought about it. Her second brother's words made sense, but an engagement wasn't a marriage. Let the two of them get to know each other first, and if it worked out, they could stay together. If it didn't work out, they could call it off. Yeah, Dr. Kang's family is waiting outside. Hurry up and get Xinyan out. Xiao Ben was afraid that Dr. Kong would panic. All right then. Xiao Qinlin walked into the room and pushed out a dumbfounded Wang Xinyan after a while. Xinyan didn't understand, why did her parents get convinced by her uncle and second uncle? Asking her to get engaged to someone she didn't know? Her father gave her a lot of reasons saying how great Xiaolong was, but Xinyan didn't like him. She couldn't fall in love with someone she didn't know. Dad, is your company really that important? Xinyan raised her head and looked at her father, hoping that he would change his mind. Wang Shubin was a little embarrassed, but the company was his life's work. He didn't want it to be ruined. I understand, Xinyan sighed. I can go out with you guys, but I didn't agree to the engagement. Alright, let's talk outside. Don't say anything when we get out. Maybe you'll like him just by looking at him, Xiao Ben said. Xiaolong is a rare young man. Xinyan didn't say anything. There was no point in saying anything else. How could Xinyan fight back when her parents had already agreed to it? How could she change? But she didn't plan on marrying a stranger. It was just an engagement, not a marriage. She'd just have to find a way to escape when the time came. Xinyan would never accept a marriage arranged by her family. What year was this? There were still arranged marriages? Xinyan was brought to the Xiao family's living room by Xiao Ben. Xiaolong was immediately attracted by Xinyan's elegant figure. He didn't have a girlfriend, but that was just to show off in front of his grandpa. In fact, he'd been longing for a woman for a long time. Now that Xinyan was officially his fiancée, Xiaolong didn't need to hide anything anymore. His family wouldn't say anything about how he treated Xinyan. Chapter 480. Chapter 480. Cousin visits. Again. Xiaolong paused when he saw the flash of disgust in Xinyan's eyes. He understood what was going on. From the looks of it, Wang Xinyan was a girl with high standards. She wasn't like those materialistic girls who'd get excited at the sight of a rich young master like him, wanting nothing more than to throw themselves at him. But the more Xinyan acted like this, the more Xiaolong was tempted. He wouldn't say anything if he were to marry a girl who was greedy for money, but he wouldn't be happy about it. Xinyan's reaction was just what he wanted, and the desire in Xiaolong's eyes disappeared in a flash, returning to his previous clarity. He was a schemer, and the fact that he'd been studying so hard for so many years showed how strong his willpower was. Hello Xinyan, I'm Xiaolong. I hope we can get along well. Xiaolong reached out his hand and greeted Xinyan warmly. If Xiaolong had been like this from the start, Xinyan wouldn't have hated him as much as she did now. After all, he was a sacrifice for the family's benefit. Xinyan wouldn't hate him even if she didn't like him. But the desire in Xiaolong's eyes showed that his heart wasn't pure, and it made Xinyan feel disgusted. She looked at Xiaolong's hand and said faintly, I'm sorry, I was locked up by my family and I haven't washed my hands for a few days. Xiaolong paused and his face darkened. But it was only for a second and he returned to normal. He was angry that Xinyan didn't give him any face at all, saying that she was forced to do it in front of everyone. How could Xiaolong take that? But Xiaolong couldn't afford to fall out with Xinyan right now. First of all, Xinyan was a woman he liked, and there was no harm in pursuing a woman like that. Second of all, he couldn't fall out with the Xiao family for the sake of the family's benefit. It seems that Xinyan doesn't want to marry into House Kong, does she? Dr. Kong was a little angry at Xinyan's words. Xiaolong couldn't say it, but he could. Although the Kong family was not an aristocratic family yet, the marriage was mutually beneficial, and the Xiao family also understood it very well. Moreover, the old master of the Xiao family had passed away, and there were only 2 juniors left. Dr. Kong was qualified to take advantage of his seniority. Xiaoji was a little irritated as well. He didn't expect Xinyan to be so disrespectful in a situation like this. He was about to scold her a little, but Xiao Ben shot him a look and he shut his mouth. In the Xiao family, although Xiaoji was the eldest, Xiao Ben was very intelligent. Xiaoji now understood that the only way to protect the family was if the two of them worked together. So, he gave up on being the eldest and listened to Xiao Ben. Elder Kong, she's a girl. How can she agree to it so easily? Xiao Ben smiled. It's the young people's business, of course. We're just acting as a middleman and the key lies with them. Let's get to know each other first and only then can we plan our next step. Xiao Ben's words were smooth. It was different from what he had originally intended, but Dr. Kong could still accept it. Xinyan was clearly against it, and the Xiao family must have done a lot of work for her. If Dr. Kong were to insist on something, it would only make things worse, and that wasn't what Dr. Kong wanted to see. The only thing he could do was to let the two get to know each other as Xiao Ben suggested. Now that the two know each other, it's better to get to know each other more. I heard that Xinyan's studying in Songshan? Let Xiaolong go play with her on the weekends when he's free. Dr. Kong nodded. Xinyan, don't say no when I go find you. Xiaolong said with a smile. I'm in 12th grade and I'm very busy. I don't have time. Xinyan said faintly. Xinyan had the intention to say no, but her reason was flawless. Xiaolong wasn't happy about it, but he could only say, there should be time for a meal, right? I'll just treat you to a meal and get to know each other. Depends on the time. Xinyan frowned, but there was nothing she could do since Xiaolong had already said so. She felt a little depressed when she saw her father's earnest gaze. No matter what, she had to deal with it first. She was still young and if she dragged it out, something might happen. Xinyan felt a little more at ease at the thought. Dr. Kang's expression softened a little when Xinyan stopped objecting. Gui Feng has booked a table at the hotel. Let's go together. Tang Yin didn't know how her day passed. She stumbled home at night to see her mother and father discussing buying a storefront with a smile on her face. In your back? Mrs. Tang looked at Tang Yun happily, not noticing her daughter's strange mood. Your dad and I are looking into it. We want to get a bigger store, preferably one with 2 floors. Our house is big enough and it won't cost much. 500,000 should be enough. Oh. Tang Yin replied faintly, unable to say the words that were at the tip of her tongue. She wanted to take back the 500,000 from her mother, but how could she do that now? Tang Yin went back to her room depressed and closed the door. She laid on her bed and started crying. After crying for a while, she fell asleep. Tang Yin would go back to her room to read every day after school, so Mrs. Tang didn't find it strange at all. She didn't know how long it had been, but Tang Yin was woken up by a commotion. She got up in a daze, wanting to wash her face before coming back to her room to read. She opened the door to see her brother, Wang Luwei, and his girlfriend, Dan, sitting on the sofa with a hesitant look on their faces. "And you're awake? I didn't dare wake you up because you were asleep," Mrs. Tang said happily. "You're tired from school every day, so I didn't want to disturb you. Now that you're awake, I need your help with Wei's matter." Tang Yin paused. "What's wrong with Wei? You have to help me." Wei looked at Tang Yin dejectedly, begging. "You have to save Dan." "What now? What did you do this time?" Tang Yin was already in a bad mood, and hearing that Wei was in trouble made her even more unhappy. Wei could see that, and so could Mrs. Tang. She glared at Tang Yin. "What, you're not going to care about your brother now that you're rich?" Wei could see that, and so could Mrs. Tang. She glared at Tang Yin. "What, you're not going to care about your brother now that you're rich?" Chapter 481. How am I supposed to return it? "Sister, you found a powerful brother-in-law. You must save me this time." Xiao Wei said carefully, "It's the same boss we talked about last time. He still won't let me and Xiaodan go? The boss from last time? Didn't you give them the 150,000 already?" Tang Yun paused and looked at her brother in confusion. 150,000 yuan was given to him, but he said that 150,000 yuan was the situation 10 years ago. Now that the price of goods has increased so many times, the 150,000 yuan will also have to pay interest. Speaking up to this point, Xiao Wei seemed very angry. He said that either you pay him back 500,000 yuan with interest, or you want Xiao Dan to continue working in the company, or you give him money? 500,000? Tang Yun's eyes widened. How can they be so greedy? Turning 15 into 50 all of a sudden? Does he have a contract? Why don't we go to court to sue him? Where's the contract? Little Wei smiled bitterly. If there was a contract, it wouldn't be like this. The only contract was the one we signed. Xiao Dan had to work for him. If Xiao Dan broke the contract, she would have to compensate him for all his losses. He didn't say how much the losses were, so he could talk nonsense. Besides, we can't afford to go to court. Uncle Tang's matter hasn't been resolved yet, right? Tang Yun sighed. Wei was right. Her family was a weak group. How could they fight against those rich bosses? At that time, not to mention whether or not they could win the lawsuit, even if they did win, they would still be the ones who would suffer losses if they backstabbed Xiao Wei. But, tell me, what can I do? Tang Yin lowered her head. She understood what Wei was implying. He wanted her to ask Lin Yi for money, but how was she supposed to ask Lin Yi for money now? Yuner, although I happen to have the 500,000 Lin Yi gave me, isn't that the money we used to buy a retail store? If we give it away, we won't be able to buy a store. Mrs. Tang interrupted. Look, can't you talk to Lin Yi and ask him for another 500,000? What do you want? Do you think he's a money tree? Tang Yun panicked and stood up abruptly. What money tree? He's rich, and this amount of money is nothing to him. Mrs. Tang looked at her daughter and said with disappointment, now that you have the capital to ask for money, you must ask for more. If you ask for more, he'll definitely agree. Mrs. Tang said. Yes, sister, I beg you. Only brother-in-law can help you with this matter. If you don't go, what about Xiaodan? You can't just watch as she walks into a tiger's den. Xiao Wei also hurriedly advised. You don't understand at all. You don't even know what happened between me and Lin Yi. Why do you always force me to ask for money? Why do you always force me? Tang Yin was so angry that she was on the verge of tears. She screamed at the top of her lungs, I already owe him so much money, how am I supposed to pay him back? How am I supposed to pay him back? I was the one who asked him for money, not you. What do you want me to do in the future? Mrs. Tang helplessly looked at her crazy daughter. Yun, do you still not understand? Lin Yi likes you. Your beauty is his capital. If you don't make good use of it, you'll regret it when he breaks up with you. Break up? That's right. We've already broken up. Tang Yin didn't want to talk about her scandal, but she was being forced into a corner. He doesn't want me anymore. Are you happy now? The money from this morning was his breakup fee. Ah. Mrs. Tang froze. Mr. Tang Wei and Dan froze as well. What did you say? Lin Yi broke up with you? You're joking, right? Joking? What kind of joke is this? Do I look like I'm joking? Tang Yin said as she recalled today's sad events and the grievances she'd suffered. Her eyes reddened and tears started to flow down her cheeks. Mrs. Tang didn't know what to do. She was a snobbish person, but she was still on Tang Yin's side. She quickly picked up her daughter. Good girl, don't cry, Yin. It's fine if they broke up. I've said it before, he's a good-for-nothing, a hedonistic young master. Tang Yin found it funny at her mother's words. Her tears turned into a smile. Mom, didn't you say he was a good person? Ah? Mrs. Tang felt a bit awkward. Yin, did he take advantage of you? No. Tang Yin shook her head. I told him that I can't do it before he brings me to his parents. That's good, that's good. Tang Yin was overjoyed. Since he didn't take advantage of him, then forget it. We even got 700,000 for free, it's a big win. Mom, what are you saying? You have to return that money? Tang Yin panicked when she heard that her mother was going to take Lin Yi's money for herself. How can I owe him that much and not pay him back? What's wrong with that? He dumped you, not the other way around. Besides, he gave you a breakup fee, so it's only right that we get it. Mrs. Tang said disapprovingly. Wei, on the other hand, was dumbfounded. He didn't think that his sister and Lin Yi had already broken up. He was hoping that his sister would borrow the money, but now, sister, what about me? Xiao Wei hung his head dejectedly, and Xiao Dan's face was also filled with despair. Wei, don't worry. I won't buy it anymore. I'll give you the money first. Mrs. Tang may be snobbish, but she wasn't a cold-blooded person. She was generous to her family. I know I'm in trouble, but I can't let you and Dan suffer. How about this, you give them the money first? Mom? You still want to touch that money? I told you I'd return it to Lin Yi. Tang Yin panicked. She told Xiao Xiao that she'd return the money to Lin Yi. How could she touch that money? The breakup fee is yours, of course. Do you want to see your brother die? Mrs. Tang glared at Tang Yin. It's good enough that he asked for some more money, you're giving it back to him? Tang Yin was speechless. She had to return the money, but she couldn't just ignore Wei's situation. What should she do? But if she took the money without any qualms, what would Lin Yi think of her? He'd definitely look down on her, and Xiao Xiao would laugh at her for being vain and acting all high and mighty. For a moment, Tang Yun was in a dilemma. And why are you so dumb? He played you, isn't it normal for him to give you money? Mrs. Tang humphed. Chapter 482. Chapter 482, Sending Money to the Door? You can have fun with it or dump it. Mrs. Tang said with a wave of her hand. Alright, it's decided. We'll go with Wei to that big boss later. Tang Yun felt that it wasn't right to use the money, but there was nothing she could do about it. It was her family's fault for being so unlucky. Just don't be sad. That bastard has eyes but can't see. Don't worry, I Wei am a man too. I'll return the money to you, Wei said. He knew what his sister was worried about. I won't make it hard for you. Okay. Tang Yun nodded, comforted. At least Wei wasn't the type of person who only knew how to ask for money. It was enough for her. The bank card was opened under Tang Yun's name. Withdrawing 500,000 in one go, naturally Tang Yun had to go there herself. They found a 24-hour bank, withdrew the money, and took a taxi with her mother, Wei, and Dan to the area where the big boss lived. Right here? It's so grand. Mrs. Tang said enviously as she looked at the luxurious facilities and beautiful houses. When will we be able to live in a house like this? Andy, this is Lead Shore. It's one of the most luxurious residential areas in the city. Everyone who lives here is rich, and one house is worth tens of millions. Wei had been here a couple of times, so he was familiar with the market here. Tens of millions? That's expensive. Mrs. Tang was taken aback. She looked at her daughter with pity. I was hoping that your uncle and I would have a chance to live in a mansion like this now that you've found yourself a rich husband. But it seems like that's not possible anymore. Mom, what are you talking about? Tang Yun frowned. This was something that hurt her, and she didn't want to talk about it. I won't talk about it, I won't talk about it. Mrs. Tang thought to herself. Should she find a chance to talk to Lin Yi and see if there was a chance for them to get back together? But these rich young masters probably already had someone arranged for them to marry. Why else would they break up with her without any warning? There had to be a reason behind it. Mrs. Tang was a shrewd old woman, and naturally she was a bit more scheming than Tang Yin. She thought even further than Tang Yin. Plus, he didn't know about Xiao Xiao, so he thought that there had to be a reason why Lin Yi dumped his daughter. Mrs. Tang thought that even if Lin Yi couldn't marry her because of his engagement, he could at least be a mistress, right? And my requirements are not high. I just want my family to buy a mansion on the bank of the Lead River. If he couldn't do it, he had to ask Lin Yi for another sum of money. He couldn't let him get away with it. Even if he didn't do anything to his daughter, he had hurt her feelings. Tang Yun didn't know that her mother was thinking of something snobbish again. She was still very pure, and naturally she wouldn't think that her mother would have such embarrassing thoughts. She knew she would be furious. However, Mrs. Tang couldn't be blamed for being so snobbish. The fickleness of the world had frightened her. After suffering for so many years, she didn't want her daughter to suffer anymore, so she even thought of becoming a mistress. She couldn't be blamed. It's here. Wei pointed at an independent mansion. Mr. Zhou lives here. Mom, don't say anything when we go in. We can't just give him money this time, we have to make an agreement. Tang Yin took a deep breath and calmed herself down. She returned to normal and stopped thinking about what happened during the day. Tang Yin hadn't interacted with society before, but in a high-class private school like Songshan's First, she had interacted quite a bit. She knew that everything needed a contract. Her father didn't get any compensation because the contract wasn't clear. So she could give that Mr. Zhou some money this time, but he had to write an agreement that he wouldn't pursue Dan's responsibility in the future. All right, I'll listen to you. Mrs. Tang nodded, knowing that her daughter knew a lot. Only then did little Wei ring the doorbell of the villa. Zhou Qiandi had been very depressed these past 2 days. Not only did he offend Lin Yi, but he also offended Sihua. Both of these were people who could kill him instantly. He didn't even have the slightest intention to fight back. His opponents were too strong. Lin Yi was a master above golden class, and Sihua didn't lack golden class masters around him. He could still do whatever he wanted in Songshan with Uncle Yan's support, but now that Uncle Yan was crippled by Lin Yi, he didn't dare go out and show off anymore. Zhou Qiandi used to be a big shot in Songshan, but now I'm this useless. Qiandi poured himself a glass of red wine and downed it in one gulp, depressed. But even though he was depressed, he was still glad. He might have offended Sihua, but it wasn't a deep grudge. He just didn't want to work with him, and Sihua wouldn't come after him for that. Lin Yi, on the other hand, had promised not to pursue the matter any further, so Qiandi felt a bit better. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to eat or sleep in peace. Fortunately, there would be a pretty girl coming to play with him in a while, and that soothed Qiandi's depressed heart a little. Qiandi adjusted his clothes when he heard the doorbell. He knew that it had to be Dan. He'd given Dan an ultimatum. Bring the money tonight or clean her up and send her here. The maid went to open the door, and Qiandi walked out of the study and headed downstairs to the living room. Tang Yun, Mrs. Tang, Dan, and Wei came to the living room and sat on the sofa awkwardly. Wei and Dan were a bit better, since they'd been here a few times before, but it was Tang Yun and Mrs. Tang's first time in a mansion like this, and they didn't know what to do. Dan, you're here, right? Are you going to give the money or the person? Qiandi said as he walked down the stairs, but paused when he saw the 4 people on the sofa. But because the sofa's back was facing the stairs, Qiandi couldn't see who they were. Mr. Zhou, we brought the money. Wei stood up and turned to Qiandi. What? You brought the money? Qiandi paused and anger rushed to his head. He never would have thought that Wei would come up with another 500,000. How was that possible? Wei and Dan were from the countryside, and even if they borrowed from the whole village, they wouldn't be able to get that much money, would they? Chapter 483. Scared to the bone, but Wei's words shattered Qiandi's fantasies. Qiandi's dreams had been shattered in an instant, and he was furious. Yeah, we brought 500,000. We hope that you'll let Dan go, Mr. Zhou. Wei nodded. He didn't want to, but he was willing to give up the money if it could save Dan. Humph, where's the 500,000? Qiandi was pissed, but he couldn't go back on his words. He asked coldly, hoping to find something wrong and use it as an excuse to attack. It's with my sister. Wei said. Sis, can you take a look at him? Tang Yun found the voice familiar, and Wei called him Mr. Zhou. She suddenly realized that she knew this Mr. Zhou. He was Zhou Ruoming's father, Zhou Qiandi. Tang Yun's heart skipped a beat. She wasn't afraid of Zhou Qiandi when she was with Lin Yi, but now that Lin Yi had broken up with her, she'd lost Lin Yi's protection. Wouldn't she be at the mercy of the Zhou father and son? Tang Yun regretted coming here at the thought. She was afraid that Zhou Ruoming would do something outrageous again. Sis. Wei saw that Tang Yun wasn't moving and couldn't help but call out again. Qiandi looked at Tang Yun's silhouette. It was a pretty little figure, and he couldn't help but be moved. Dirty thoughts popped up in his mind as he smiled lewdly. Oh, your sister's here too? Tang Yun was even more afraid of Qiandi's disgusting voice, but Wei had already called out to her. She had no choice but to brace herself and stand up. She turned around and opened the bag in her hand, pretending to be calm. Mr. Zhou, I've brought the money. I hope you can keep your promise and let my brother and Dan go. What? Tiandi froze. He never would have thought that the sister Wei was talking about was Tang Yun. Damn it, why am I so lucky? The more I want to avoid Lin Yi, the more I provoke people related to him. Am I possessed by the god of misfortune? Otherwise, who else could be as unlucky as him? Tiandi thought that Tang Yun was mocking him at first. He was scared out of his wits as his face paled. I don't want it anymore, I don't want the money anymore. Tang Yun frowned as she saw the change in Tiandi's expression. Was he going back on his word? Little Wei was also shocked, and little Dan's expression also changed slightly. Director Zhou, didn't you say that you would release Lil Dan for 500,000? Why are you going back on your word? Little Wei was a little anxious. Mr. Zhou, you won't go back on your word, right? Tang Yun was shocked as well, but in order to not show her fear, she forced herself to remain calm. She couldn't soften at a time like this, or Tiandi would only make things worse. I say, Miss Tang? Ah no, Sis Tang, I'm calling you sis now, please stop messing with me. I didn't do it on purpose, I really didn't do it on purpose. How would I know that Dan is your sister-in-law? I wouldn't have dared to do anything if I had known. Tiandi almost cried. He thought that Tang Yun was mocking him on purpose. After all, a lot of times powerful people like to say the opposite when they wanted to show off. Tiandi had done it many times when he bullied the weak, so he subconsciously thought that Tang Yun was doing the same thing as well. Tiandi's reaction surprised everyone. Little Wei and little Dan were dumbfounded, and so was Mrs. Tang. They didn't understand why Tiandi's attitude changed 180 degrees after seeing Tang Yun. Tang Yun frowned. After a short moment of confusion, she realized that Tiandi probably didn't know that she broke up with Lin Yi yet. That was why he was being so respectful to her. She could use this chance to leave, but Tang Yun was afraid that Tiandi would come after Wei after he found out that she broke up with Lin Yi. It seemed like he wasn't being sarcastic, he really didn't want the money anymore. Although they didn't know the reason for this change, it was still a pleasant surprise. With that thought, Tang Yun said, Mr. Zhou, you should take the 500,000. This has to end, right? Tiandi thought that Tang Yun was purposely messing with him and he was angry, but more than that, he was afraid. He knew from his son, Zhou Ruoming, that Lin Yi treated Tang Yun like a precious baby. Last time his son tried to rape Tang Yun, Lin Yi beat him up quite badly. How would he dare mess with Tang Yun again? Plus, Tang Yun's presence here most likely had something to do with Lin Yi. There was a limit to a person's patience. Who wouldn't be happy if he kept messing with Lin Yi and the people around him, especially a master like Lin Yi? Masters usually didn't care about small fry, but if a small fry went too far, then a master wouldn't mind slapping a small fry to death. It was like a dog. You might ignore it if it barked at you, but if it came to bite you once, you might tolerate it. But if it kept on biting you and your family, then you might just kill it and eat its meat. Tiandi felt like he was that dog, and after messing with Lin Yi so many times, it wasn't long before he was slapped to death, and so, Tiandi was completely terrified. He knelt on the ground with a thud, tears streaming down his face. Tang sis, I'm begging you, please don't play with me anymore. I know I'm wrong now, please go back and tell Boss Lin that I'm blind. I'll slap my own face, okay? Just treat me like a fart and let me go. With that, Tiandi raised his arm and started slapping himself across the face. Slap, slap. The sound of the slaps didn't stop as Tiandi pummeled himself with all his might, getting more and more pumped up as he hit himself. Tiandi's words made Tang Yun blush. What did he mean by treat it like a fart and let it go? She was a girl, wasn't she? How could he be so vulgar? She couldn't help but glare at Tiandi. Tiandi's bad look gave Tang Yun some courage. Since he didn't want the money, then she'd let him write a contract. With a contract, she wouldn't have to worry about him going back on his words in the future. With that in mind, Tang Yun decided to go with the flow and use her connections to intimidate others. Chapter 484. Chapter 484. Amazing Mrs. Tang. At the same time, Little Wei and Little Dan were deeply shocked. The two of them were afraid of Tiandi, but Tiandi was even more afraid of Lin Yi than they were of him. Tiandi was willing to throw away his pride just to get on Tang Yun's good side. It made Wei's blood boil. Wouldn't it be great if Lin Yi hadn't broken up with his sister and was his brother-in-law instead? He'd be able to take advantage of Lin Yi and show off. But why did he break up with his sister? What was so bad about his sister? She was pretty and had a good personality. She was 1 in a million. Was Lin Yi blind? But Wei knew that if Lin Yi was really that amazing, then he wouldn't lack women around him. His sister's advantage wouldn't be much of an advantage anymore. Mrs. Tang, on the other hand, was very emotional and regretful. If only Lin Yi hadn't broken up with Tang Yun. With a son-in-law as powerful as he was, who would dare mess with her family? Mr. Zhou was slapping himself in the face the moment he heard Lin Yi's name. He was too excited. Humph, my son-in-law said that if you cause trouble for my nephew again, he'll teach you a lesson. Mrs. Tang said with her hands on her waist. She didn't know why, but the words slipped out of her mouth. Tang Yun looked at her mother accusingly. What son-in-law? It was already out of the question, but she couldn't correct it right now. She couldn't let Tiandi know, could she? She had no choice but to let her mother say whatever she wanted. I wouldn't dare. Tiandi said quickly. It's Auntie, I apologize for my rudeness. I'll be strict with myself and never cause trouble again. What about the 150,000 I gave you? Mrs. Tang humphed. Tiandi calling her auntie at his age made Mrs. Tang feel a sense of accomplishment. Tiandi was probably even older than her, wasn't he? Since when had Mrs. Tang ever been treated this way? She was overjoyed. Tang Yun knew that things were about to go south at her mother's words. Wouldn't this make Tiandi suspicious? He wouldn't have given him that 150,000 if he'd known it was Zhou Tiandi, but he'd given him another 150,000 just now. Mom Lin Yi said that the 150,000 is what Wei owes him, we should just give it to him. Tang Yun said quickly. Tang Yun had no choice but to lie in order not to be exposed. Otherwise she wouldn't be able to smooth things over. Mrs. Tang, on the other hand, was a little reluctant. She could have used Lin Yi's name to get back the 150,000 yuan. Why did her daughter not want it? Yes, I will return the 150,000 immediately. Immediately. Tiandi didn't have time to think about that. Tang Yun was worrying too much, and with Tang Yun's words Tiandi wouldn't be suspicious at all. Because that was Lin Yi's personality. He didn't have the time to find fault with small matters. As long as it didn't touch his bottom line, it was usually fine. But although Tang Yun said that Lin Yi didn't want the 150,000 yuan, Mrs. Tang was the one who asked. Tiandi didn't dare refuse. What if Lin Yi's mother-in-law wasn't happy and said a few bad things about him at home? Lin Yi would tear him apart, wouldn't he? Tiandi thought that it would be such a waste if he lost his life over such a small matter. So whether Tang Yun wanted it or not, he'd just give the money to Mrs. Tang and shut her mouth. It'd be best if she could put in a few good words for him and make Lin Yi give up on causing trouble for him. With that thought, Tiandi scrambled up the stairs. Tang Yun glared at her mother, but Mrs. Tang didn't mind. If she could get the money, so what if she borrowed Lin Yi's name? Little Wei and Little Dan were also shocked. Just how strong was Lin Yi to be able to scare Tiandi like this? As far as they knew, Tiandi was a super powerful man. He had money, power, and power. His eldest son, Zhou Ruoguang, was the leader of the gangsters in the North District. With a status like that, he was one of the tyrants in Songshan. But Lin Yi wasn't even here yet. His sister was here and she scared him to the point of pissing his pants. If Lin Yi was here, would he have to kneel and kowtow? But Wei and Dan didn't dare say anything. They didn't want to mess things up, so they could only talk about it at night. It wasn't long before Tiandi came downstairs. Perhaps it was because he was in a hurry, but he slipped and fell down the stairs like a slide. Tiandi didn't care about the pain on his butt at all as he handed a bag to Mrs. Tang. Auntie, this is for you? Didn't I say I don't want it? Tang Yun didn't insist after seeing Tiandi take the money. She didn't really stop him. She knew that there was no point in stopping him. The money was in her mother's hands and she wouldn't be able to get it back. Mrs. Tang beamed as she took the bag. She sat down on the sofa and started counting the contents. Tang Yun was speechless. Tiandi was already like this, he wouldn't dare give less, but she was still counting money in front of him as if she'd never seen money before. Wasn't this embarrassing? Tang Yun stomped her feet in anger, but she couldn't say anything. But Tiandi saw Tang Yun's expression. He didn't think much of Mrs. Tang counting money. He knew Tang Yun's family background very well. They were a poor family in the slums, so it was normal for Mrs. Tang to be greedy. Tang Yun stomping her feet didn't seem like a big deal to Tiandi. Tang Yun was in a relationship with Lin Yi now and she had plenty of money. She probably didn't care about the money. Why is there an extra 50,000? Mrs. Tang counted the money in the bag. She was surprised to find that there was an extra 50,000 in the bag. Auntie, this 150,000 has been with me for so long, of course I have to pay interest. This 50,000 will be the interest, Tiandi said quickly. He was hoping that Lin Yi's mother-in-law would put in a good word for him, and Tiandi knew Mrs. Tang's weakness very well. She was greedy. The extra 50,000 was for Mrs. Tang's good graces. Tiandi believed that Mrs. Tang wouldn't blame him anymore. She'd even praise him. As expected, Mrs. Tang's smile grew wider after hearing Tiandi's words. Good, not bad. You're pretty good. Mrs. Tang happily put the money back into the bag and turned to Tang Yun. Let's go then? We won't disturb Mr. Zhou's rest anymore. Wait, Mr. Zhou, please write me an IOU. Make it clear that you won't cause trouble for my brother and Dan anymore. Tang Yun remembered this important thing. She needed an IOU. What if Qindi went back on his word? Chapter 485. The grievances. It didn't matter what Tang Yun's motives were, Zhou Qindi would try his best to satisfy her if she asked for it. He didn't have any other thoughts. He just thought that Tang Yun was very careful. If it was Lin Yi, he wouldn't be this polite. Lin Yi wouldn't ask him for anything. He'd beat him up until he couldn't write anything anymore. Not only did Zhou Qindi write it down, stating that he would never cause trouble for Wei and Dan ever again, but he also returned the contract he signed with Dan to Dan. This meant that Dan would have nothing to do with him from now on. Tang Yun let out a sigh of relief after getting the contract. She didn't want to stay in Zhou Qindi's house any longer. She nodded and turned to her mother. Let's go then. Wait. Qindi called out to Tang Yun's family. Tang Yun's heart skipped a beat. Did Zhou Qindi see something? Did he know that she was acting tough? Mr. Zhou? Are you going back on your word? Tang Yun turned around, trying to sound calm. Mrs. Tang, Wei and Dan on the other hand paled in fright. They didn't turn around and Zhou Qindi didn't see it either. No, Sis Tang, you've misunderstood. Qindi jumped and quickly explained. What I mean is, I'll send a car to send you back. It's late and you guys have money on you. It's not safe. It wasn't Qindi's fault. He had no choice but to do so. Tang Yun's family had so much money on them, and with the 200,000 from before, they had 700,000 in total. It wasn't safe to go out at night. If something happened and they got robbed, and Lin Yi thought he was the one who sent the robbers, they'd be screwed. So, in order to prove his innocence, Zhou Qindi had to send a car to escort them home himself. He was relieved when they got home. I see. That's fine. Mrs. Tang agreed. It wasn't safe to bring so much money this late at night. Qindi quickly called the driver after Mrs. Tang agreed, telling him to drive the company's car back. He then put on his jacket and prepared to send the family home. Mr. Zhou, you should rest. There's no need for you. Tang Yin didn't want Qindi to follow her. It'd be bad if he noticed something. What if Lin Yi sees you and gets angry again? Quack. Qindi jumped in fright at Tang Yun's words. She was right. If Lin Yi couldn't see him, he could let it go after a few days, but what if Lin Yi saw him and beat him up? Qindi said gratefully. Thank you, Sister Tang. I was a little unwise. Since that's the case, I won't send you off. It's not that I'm lacking in etiquette, but I really don't dare to. Mrs. Tang, Wei and Dan breathed a sigh of relief, but Mrs. Tang turned around and said haughtily, There's no need for that. I'll talk to my son-in-law later. I won't scare you anymore. Sigh. Thank you, Auntie. Qindi was overjoyed. He was waiting for Mrs. Tang to say that. Qindi's driver came quickly. He told the driver that he had to respect Tang Yin's family even more than he respected himself before letting the driver drive off. Qindi's driver was very responsible. He'd rather walk on the dirt road and scratch the undercarriage of the car. He only left after sending the family home. Everyone let out a sigh of relief when they got home. The show was quite successful, and the happiest person was Mrs. Tang. Not only did she not have to pay, but she also got 200,000. It was a blessing from the heavens. Mom, how could you say that? I don't have anything to do with Lin Yi anymore, and you're still calling him your son-in-law? Aren't you trying to embarrass me? Tang Yin felt a little embarrassed when she got home. She didn't want to use Lin Yi's name. He didn't want her anymore and she was using his name. Wasn't that shameless? Tang Yun was too ashamed to show her face. That's nothing. Mrs. Tang didn't think much of it. That boss so doesn't know anyways. Right, daughter, is there still a chance between you and Lin Yi? Why doesn't he want you anymore? Tang Yun was a little embarrassed. She didn't want to talk about Lin Yi, especially when Wei and Dan were here. It was even harder to talk about Lin Yi. Wei, Dan, it's getting late. You two should go home and stop contacting boss so. Mrs. Tang saw through Tang Yin's thoughts and turned to Wei and Dan. Wei was curious as to why Lin Yi and Tang Yin broke up. He wanted them to get back together, so he wanted to stay and listen. But his sister seemed to have something she couldn't talk about. He couldn't stay any longer. He stood up and pulled Dan. Auntie, we'll go back first. Be careful on the road. Give me a call when you get home. Mrs. Tang sent Wei and Dan off and went back into the house. She held her daughter's hand. Tell me, why did you guys break up? I saw that Lin Yi treated you pretty well, didn't he? I didn't see anything wrong this morning. How did he break up? Mom? He had a girlfriend before. His girlfriend transferred to our school and she's sitting at the same table as him. Tang Yin found it hard to say it out loud, but her mother pressed on. She gritted her teeth and blushed. Mom, you said he had a girlfriend before. Why'd he try to mess with me then? Mother and daughter were connected. Tang Yin let go of her strong front in front of her mother and started crying in her mother's arms. Yin, don't cry. Mrs. Tang sighed. It wasn't like what she guessed. It wasn't that Linny didn't like her daughter anymore, but that the main character came and forced Linny to break up with her. Mom, why is he so bad? Why would he bother me when he has a girlfriend? I'm so embarrassed. How am I supposed to raise my head in the future? Tang Yin felt more and more wronged as she spoke. Mrs. Tang sighed. It's all Mom's fault. It's all because we're poor. If we were rich, Linny wouldn't have broken up with you. His girlfriend must be from a rich family, right? His family must have gotten her for him, right? Yeah. He drives a sports car to school. Tang Yin nodded. She wasn't lying. That's what I said. Otherwise, why would Linny break up with you? Mrs. Tang said as she stroked her daughter's hair. Did his girlfriend come looking for you? Chapter 486. Xiao Xiao and daughter HM? Mrs. Tang's eyes lit up at her daughter's words. Yin, you're saying that Lin Yi's girlfriend doesn't mind you being a mistress? Tang Yun blinked, but understood what her mother was getting at. She frowned. Mom, you're not thinking of making me a mistress, are you? If that's the case, then don't even mention it. I wouldn't do something so embarrassing. Mrs. Tang didn't say anything else after seeing her daughter's determination. She patted her daughter's shoulder. Alright, don't cry, Yin. Who knows, maybe Linny will change his mind one day. Who cares about him changing his mind? I don't want to talk to him anymore. Tang Yun stomped her feet. I'm going to study. I was too stupid to trust him before. I won't do it again. With that, Tang Yun ran into her room and told her mother everything. She felt much better now, not as depressed and wronged as before. Mrs. Tang shook her head regretfully as she looked at her daughter's back. She sighed to herself. Yin, you still don't know how hard life is. You'll know how painful it is when you're as old as I am. She thought back to her classmates, many of whom weren't as pretty as she was when they were young, but they were rich now. They took good care of themselves, and she, on the other hand, was the prettiest girl in school when she was young. It was rare to have a man that her daughter liked, and he liked her as well. It wouldn't be embarrassing to be a mistress. When he attended a class reunion, there was a divorced woman who became the mistress of a big boss and kept bragging about it to everyone. Not only did no one despise her, but they were also very envious of her. Before leaving, they did not forget to ride in her BMW to satisfy their cravings. Laugh at the poor but not at the prostitutes. It wasn't a nice saying, but it indirectly reflected the helplessness of reality. Xiao Xiao took her blood numbly, and was sent to do a CT scan and all sorts of tests. It was the same every time and the results were always the same. Xiao Xiao yawned as she laid on the hospital bed, bored. Tianlong walked in, looking at his daughter with concern. Xiao Xiao, what do you want to eat tonight? Daddy's bringing you? I'll take a leave of absence these 2 days to accompany you. No need, you go do what you need to do. Xiao Xiao shook her head, her eyes empty as she looked at the cars outside. Are the results out yet? When can I go back? Xiao Xiao only asked if the results were out and when she could go back. It was obvious that she didn't have any hope for a cure. She just wanted to go back after the checkup. Otherwise, if he could be treated, he would definitely stay in the hospital. Not yet, but Dr. Zheng is an expert in hereditary diseases. He should have a way. Tianlong comforted. You don't have to comfort me. Even the legendary Dr. Lin Dongfang couldn't do anything about my mother's illness. How could anyone else? Xiao Xiao curled her lips. She'd basically lost all hope. She just wanted to do something spontaneous in the last stages of her life. That way she wouldn't have any regrets. Miracle Dr. Lin also said that it wasn't that he couldn't save her, but he lacked some conditions. Tianlong said helplessly, Miracle Dr. Lin said that if he had 5 years he might be able to find a solution, but your mother can't wait 5 years. Isn't that just an excuse for being useless? Xiao Xiao humphed. Who knows if he can cure her? Maybe he's afraid of ruining his own reputation? No, Miracle Dr. Lin has been researching the special ingredients in your mother's blood. But after that last meeting he went into seclusion. Tianlong said helplessly. He can't cure her, so he went into seclusion. Xiao Xiao didn't think much of it. All those miracle doctors are like that, and that bullshit Dr. Kong, what else can he do other than make medicine? Everyone calls him a miracle doctor. What a joke. You were young back then, so you didn't understand Miracle Dr. Lin. He's a stubborn person. For your mother he risked his life and went to Miaojiang to research poison. Tianlong didn't have the heart to scold his daughter, but he still lectured her. You can't disrespect him. Fine, fine. Xiao Xiao waved her hand. If he's so stubborn, why did he go into seclusion? Your mother's illness isn't that easy to research, is it? Tianlong smiled bitterly. I've been trying to contact him recently, but I haven't been able to. Captain Yang, who brought me on a mission back then, was close to Miracle Dr. Lin, but he went into seclusion as well. So you know it's not easy to research, then why did you bring me here? Xiao Xiao frowned. The results are still a few days away. I'll take you around Yanjing these 2 days, it'll be a good time to relax. Tianlong didn't answer his daughter's question directly. He knew that Dr. Zheng wouldn't be able to do anything with the results, but having hope was better than having no hope at all. Oh. Xiao Xiao replied faintly. She didn't say that she was going, but she didn't say that she wasn't interested either. Someone gave Dad an invitation to an auction. Do you want to go? Tianlong suddenly remembered that House Yu's auction was in a few days, and he received an invitation as well. The organization that Feng Tianlong belonged to was called the Secret Investigation Bureau. It was a very special secret agent organization that had a close relationship with the host of the auction, House Yu. House Yu would always send a lot of tickets to the Secret Investigation Bureau, but most of them didn't have the time to attend the auction. The invitation was just a courtesy. Auction. Let's go then. Xiao Xiao had never been to an auction before, but now that her father mentioned it, she wanted to go. It'd be such a waste if she didn't get to go to an auction before she died. But if there's anything you like, I don't have the money to buy it. Tianlong smiled regretfully. Dad's salary is high, but I can't afford to auction items that are worth millions. Haha. Xiao Xiao finally smiled. She wanted this feeling of novelty, the feeling of her father bringing her to play. It didn't matter if she bought it or not. Xiao Xiao had heard her father say that he was going to walk around with her a lot of times, and it was always because he had a mission, so he'd skipped a few times. But this time her father said that he was going to an auction, and he'd even brought out an invitation. No skipping. Tianlong was happy to see the smile on Xiao Xiao's face. I won't, there's 3 rounds. I can at least watch one with you. Chapter 487. The auction begins. The auction was split into 3 days, with different items being auctioned each day. Of course, it didn't mean that one invitation could participate in all 3 auctions. Only those big families and a very small number of celebrities had the golden invitation to participate in all 3 auctions. The ordinary red invitation indicated the number of auctions one could participate in, and it was only valid on the day of the auction. Red invitations were for the common rich and famous people. They could participate in the auction as well, but they weren't as valuable as the golden ones. Fatty Lai's invitation was a red one, but he'd gotten all 3 days' worth of invitations. Xuemin, on the other hand, was a golden one. It was enough to show that Xuemin had the right to sit on the same level as the big houses. The items auction got more and more valuable as the days went by. The items on the first day were rare items, but the base price ranged from a few 100,000 to 2 million, never exceeding 2 million. The second day was 2 million to 5 million, and the third day was for items that were worth more than 5 million. Normal rich people could only participate in the first day of the auction, and the second and third days were just for the show. Many people didn't bother getting invitations for the second and third days, and even if they did, they'd just give them to their friends who liked to watch the show. There were different types of invitations, but the auction didn't have a fixed seating area. People were usually seated randomly, and close family friends would sit closer to each other. There were a lot of seats in the auction house, and not even a third of the seats could be filled. There was no need to worry about not being able to find a seat. Lin Yi, Xuemin, and Fatty Lai found a place with fewer people and sat down. It didn't take long for more and more people to arrive at the auction house. All the houses had sent their representatives, but normally the heads of the houses wouldn't show up. The lights dimmed and a few spotlights lit up the auction stage. A man in his 30s walked out from behind the curtain, and the auction house quieted down. Welcome guests to the annual auction hosted by House Yu. The man bowed politely and the crowd burst into thunderous applause. House Yu. Lin Yi paused for a moment, and a trace of excitement flashed across his calm face before returning to normal. Boss, this House Yu is the biggest and most mysterious noble house. They rose up in the last 10 years, but they've become the leader of all the noble houses. Fatty Lai whispered to Lin Yi. It's best not to piss off House Yu, but with your status, haha, even House Yu would try to curry favor with you, right? Ah, is that so? Lin Yi smiled faintly. Who's that? His name is Yu Haitian. He's not a core member of House Yu, he's just a side relative. But he's already someone that outsiders want to curry favor with. He's able to manage the auction on his own, Fatty Lai said. Lin Yi took a deep breath and nodded silently, smiling. I don't think we'll have any more interactions. Yeah, House Yu is very mysterious. I don't know what they do, but they're involved in a lot of businesses. It's just that the people they send aren't the core members of House Yu. Fatty Lai shook his head with a smile. Let's continue watching the auction. Our pill of life extension and toxin cleansing is being auctioned today. These people are blind, they can't recognize the good stuff. Fatty Lai wasn't happy when he thought about the starting price of the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. Why was such a good thing only worth $1 million? Wasn't this a scam? It's nothing. Lin Yi shook his head. It's already beyond my expectations that it's priced at $1 million. No one knows about it after all. We'll have to try it to know its effects. That's true. Fatty Lai didn't feel conflicted anymore after hearing Lin Yi's words. Right, boss, if there's anything you like, just tell me. I'll get it for you. Okay. Lin Yi didn't hold back. There was always a chance that he'd find something he liked in this auction. There was at least one item that Lin Yi was determined to get. Lin Yi had already seen the catalog for today's auction. The third item was a torn sheepskin scroll, a tattered map. Of course, to a normal person this was probably just an old map. Even if it was an antique, it wouldn't be worth much. It was just a novelty. Most importantly, this was only a small part of the map. It wasn't a complete map, so it was basically a piece of trash. Whether it was a collector's item or actual value, it wasn't worth much. If Lin Yi didn't have that piece of the map from the shark's stomach, Lin Yi wouldn't even pay attention to trash like this. But from the thumbnail of the catalog, this map was exactly the same as the one he'd gotten from the shark's stomach in terms of material and craftsmanship. Naturally, Lin Yi's interest was piqued. Will there be a lot of people fighting for this? Lin Yi didn't know much about auctions. He didn't know what would be popular, so he pointed at the map and asked Fatty Lai. Fatty Lai looked at the item Lin Yi was pointing at and his eyes widened. No way, boss, you're interested in this? What? Is there a problem? Lin Yi frowned. He didn't know what Fatty Lai's expression meant. Fatty Lai realized that his expression was a little exaggerated, so he explained awkwardly, Boss, in this auction the earlier the item is, the less valuable it is and the less people will buy it. Of course, there's always the possibility of a dark horse appearing. But to be honest, I really don't see any use for this thing. Then help me bid for it. Lin Yi let out a breath of relief. It wouldn't be easy if there were a lot of people fighting for it. On the catalog, the base price of the map was 100,000. It seemed like Fatty Lai was right. It wasn't something that was popular. The first auction item was a complete piece of jade that had not been carved. This kind of thing, if it was brought to an ordinary auction, would be a treasure of the finale. However, there were very few people bidding for it here. Obviously, those real aristocratic families and rich people did not care about this at all. The base price was 1 million, and in the end it was won by a man with a red invitation card for 1.2 million. It didn't attract much attention. Chapter 488. The second map fragment appears. This kind of thing would have caused quite a stir in a normal auction, but the noble house heirs obviously weren't interested in it here. In the end, it was won by a normal merchant with a red invitation card, and the price wasn't more than 150,000 renminbi. The third item was the map fragment that Lin Yi had his eyes on. The starting price was 100,000 renminbi, and when the auctioneer showed it, there was a brief silence in the hall. Because the description on the map was very brief, and the lines on the map were not clear, no one knew what this thing was used for. Even if it was an antique, there was no corresponding appraisal report, and it was not even clear when it was made. If it wasn't an antique, there was no explanation of what it was used for. It was similar to the hand-drawn maps used by bandits in the old days, and it was just a fragment. This kind of thing didn't have any real value at all. It was fine to sell it in the antique market to people who didn't know anything about it, but in an auction, it seemed a little out of place. However, there were always some strange things that appeared in auctions, and while many of them were left unsold, there were always a few of them every year. In fact, the auctioneer didn't know what this map fragment was, so there was no introduction. Therefore, there was no introduction at all. According to the introduction on the booklet, this was a strange sheepskin map. It might be a treasure map of a huge treasure. Of course, he also said that it was just a possibility. There were many possibilities, like picking up 1 million RMB on the streets. No one would believe something as ridiculous as that. The noble house heirs and rich merchants who came to the auction weren't idiots. They were here for things that were useful to them, and naturally they wouldn't participate in anything they didn't want. An auction wasn't a market after all. Things they didn't want had to be bought in the end, and they couldn't go back on their word. As a result, no one made a bid for a useless map fragment like this. It wasn't like the auctioneer hadn't encountered a situation like this before. There were plenty of items that were left unsold, and this one wouldn't make much of a difference. He cleared his throat. Auction item number 3, a sheepskin map. Anyone up for bidding? 110,000. Fatty Lai raised the sign in his hand. This thing might really be a treasure. I'll buy it and study it. Fatty Lai's words attracted a lot of confused and disdainful gazes from the crowd. Finding the treasure with a tattered map like this? That was ridiculous. Fatty Lai looked like a rich nouveau riche, and those who knew him were confused. Fatty Lai was a smart guy, so why would he buy such a tattered map? Could it be that he wanted to show off? Those who didn't know him all thought that Fatty Lai was an idiot with nowhere to spend his money. 110,000. Mr. No. 183 offers 110,000. Is there anyone with a higher price? The auctioneer was slightly taken aback. However, it was naturally good that there were people participating. Although it was only 110,000, 20% of the profits would go to the auction house. Even if a mosquito was small, it was still meat. 110,000 going once. 110,000 going twice. The auctioneer looked at the people present, hoping that someone would raise the price, but unfortunately no one did. These rich kids weren't idiots. They wouldn't bid for something useless, and they might even become enemies with the other bidders. Those who could participate in this auction were people who put profit first. No one was willing to do something that would harm others without benefiting themselves. If they were useless, then they might as well not participate and leave it to someone who was useful. But if they were useful, then they'd definitely fight until their necks were red. Messing around like this was rare unless the two people had a grudge against each other. In a corner of the auction house, a man's face tensed up when he heard that someone was bidding. He said into the earpiece, "Second uncle, do you need me to raise the price?" The other party seems to be very cautious. I don't know if he wants it or not. A middle-aged man's voice came from the earpiece. Let's see if we can add 10 or 20,000 symbolically. Okay. The man replied. When the auctioneer said, 110,000 going thrice, he raised the sign in his hand and said, 120,000. Looks like it's something good. I'll have to raise the price then. Fatty Lai looked at the man with a surprised expression. He didn't wait for the auctioneer to speak and stood up, 125,000. Everyone at the scene froze. They were wondering if the scroll was something good when they saw someone bidding for it, but after hearing Fatty Lai's words they understood. Fatty Lai's way of bidding was enough to tell that he wasn't determined to get it. Otherwise, why would he bid like this? It was like he was being shameless. Although the minimum price for an item with a starting price of 100,000 was 5,000, it was rare for people to do that. They usually increased the price by 10,000 or 10,000. Fatty Lai's increase could only mean that he didn't care about this item. If someone tried to compete with him, he'd just raise the price symbolically. If the other party raised the price too high, he'd just give up. So the crowd wasn't interested in participating. Participating now was equivalent to starting a feud. It was all up to these two. Second uncle, what does he mean by this? The man asked hesitantly. I don't know. Add another 5,000 and we'll see. If he raises the price again, just give up, the middle-aged man said. 130,000. The man raised the sign in his hand. 135,000. Fatty Lai shook his butt and raised the sign. Give up, the middle-aged man said. Get someone to investigate his background. Okay, the man said and didn't raise the sign again. 135,000 going once, 135,000 going twice, sold. The auctioneer slammed the hammer down. The people who wanted to watch the show were disappointed. The person bidding against Fatty Lai was obviously just playing around. He didn't have any intention of getting it, and Fatty Lai probably had the same intention. As a result, no one thought that the map fragment would be anything good. Fatty Lai didn't look happy at all after the deal was done, and they were even more certain that he was only bidding for it for fun. He wasn't going to get it for real. Congratulations to Mr. Number 183 for winning this sheepskin scroll at the price of 135,000. Later, a staff member will contact you to discuss the delivery. After the auctioneer finished speaking, he began to introduce the next auction item. Chapter 489. Directly adding 100 million. The pill of life extension and toxin cleansing was arranged to be the 10th item to be auctioned. The auctioneer was the same as the sheepskin scroll before, not having much information about it. He didn't know what this item was, and nothing like it had ever appeared in an auction before. The auctioneer had no choice but to follow the instructions on the booklet. But he added a line during the introduction, something that Fatty Lai had specifically requested. As long as the seller's request wasn't too troublesome, the auctioneer would usually fulfill it. The next item is 3 pill of life extension and toxin cleansing provided by Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company. The starting price for each is 1 million, and the 3 will be auctioned off in 3 separate rounds. The auctioneer paused at this point, because the auction house was in an uproar. Very few of them had heard of the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing, and this was the first time they'd heard of Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company. Just what kind of company was this? Just what kind of pill was the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing? Everyone present was familiar with health supplements and cherished their lives. So, if there was really such a good thing as prolonging one's life, it was impossible for them not to know about it. However, they really didn't know about this thing that appeared in the auction. Besides, wasn't 1 million a little too high? And it was only for 1? Would anyone buy it? Everyone here didn't lack money, but no one was willing to waste their money. Especially something that came out of nowhere like this. Who would even try it? The awkward silence that followed the uproar was within the auctioneer's expectations. Something like this happened at the auction every year, so the auctioneer wasn't surprised. He continued, "This pill of life extension and toxin cleansing can expel impurities from the body. As we all know, when humans eat grains, some toxins will accumulate in their bodies. Although some of it has been expelled, some of it remains in the body. The longer it is, the more toxins accumulate. The pill of life extension and toxin cleansing can cleanse the marrow and bones, expelling the toxins from the body and achieving the goal of extending one's lifespan." The auctioneer didn't quite believe the description of the pill himself. It sounded like the strength pills of the martial arts world, and if this pill really had such an effect, then 1 million wouldn't be expensive at all. But was there such a thing? The first pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. The starting price is 1 million. Please bid. The auctioneer had already made preparations for the item to be left unsold. As long as no one bid for the first item, no one would bid for the second or third item. The auction would then be dismissed and the next item would be auctioned off. Because the auction of an antique vase took up some time, and the bidding was fierce, it was impossible for the auction to end within the estimated time. The auctioneer wanted to save as much time as possible. Others might not understand the effects of the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing, but there were people here who did. Lu Qianni understood, and so did Dr. Kong. However, Dr. Kong didn't dare confirm whether this pill of life extension and toxin cleansing was the same as the one Kong Xiaobo had given him, or was it a scam? Had they even made a miracle, Dr. Guan? Isn't that obviously imitating you, Elder Kong? Xiao Ji, who was sitting not too far from Dr. Kong, said mockingly, "I think this is a scam." He and Xiao Ben had just received the invitation today, but their father's invitation had always been golden this year. This year's invitation was red, and although they'd received 3 days' worth of invitations, it was clear that the Xiao family wasn't as important as it used to be. There was nothing they could do about it. Xiao Ji and Xiao Ben were furious, but getting an invitation was already good enough. What more could they ask for? The more it was like this, the more Xiao Ji and Xiao Ben felt that they had to ally with House Kong in order to protect their position as a noble house. Dr. Kong frowned as if he'd thought of something, but he wasn't sure. Miracle Dr. Guan? This miracle Dr. Guan? Could it be Guan Shuamin? He recalled that the person beside Kong Xiaobo seemed to have a good relationship with Guan Shuamin. Could it be that the true owner of the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing was Guan Shuamin? Just as Dr. Kong was hesitating, someone stood up and called out a price. 100 million. Fatty Lai raised the card in his hand. The crowd was in an uproar, including the auctioneer. They all stared at Fatty Lai dumbfounded. He'd been the auctioneer for House Yu for 10 years, but he'd never come across a situation like this. How could someone raise the price like this? An item with a starting price of 1 million was raised to 100 million in the first auction? How was that possible? Mr. 183, please repeat your bid, I didn't hear you clearly. It was embarrassing for the auctioneer to not hear the bidder clearly, but he didn't care anymore. The situation was too absurd, and he couldn't believe that Fatty Lai would bid 100 million. He must have heard wrong. The auctioneer was confused, but Yu Haitian, who'd been sitting below the stage, frowned slightly. House Yu was the host, but they were also part of the auction. Yu Haitian was sitting with a middle-aged man. If one looked closely, they'd see that the middle-aged man was wearing an earpiece. The auctioneer didn't know, but Yu Haitian knew very well that the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing was provided by Fatty Lai. Was he buying the pill himself? Or was he trying to raise the price? In the auction, there were indeed some people who wanted to raise the price of their items and participate in false bidding. The host of the auction knew this very well, and so in order to prevent this from happening, the host of the auction would take a commission, and house use commission was as high as 20%. This way, even if someone wanted to raise the price, they'd have to take a huge risk. If they succeeded, then everyone would be happy. The host of the auction would take a lot of commission, and the seller would get the price they wanted. But if they failed, the seller would have to spend money to buy their item. In other words, the host of the auction would take a 20% commission. Of course, they could choose not to buy the item after the deal, but they'd have to pay the host of the auction a 20% commission. So no matter what, this 20% commission was a loss, and normal people wouldn't raise the price so easily. Chapter 490. An astronomical bid. Lu Qianni gritted his teeth in anger. Fatty Lai was twisting his butt as he raised his paddle, and Lu Qianni was furious. Other people didn't know what the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing was, but Lu Qianni did. How could something Lin Yi made be anything bad? Just look at Fatty Lai's father and you'd know if this thing was good or not. He didn't expect Fatty Lai to raise the price to 100 million right off the bat. Did he know how to buy things? Even if he had the money, he wouldn't spend it like that, would he? House Lu might be rich, but they couldn't just throw away 100 million like that. But as angry as he was, he knew the true value of the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. Even 100 million was an understatement. And so, Lu Qianni raised his paddle without hesitation. 110 million. Wah! The crowd was in an uproar. It was one thing for Fatty Lai to go crazy earlier, but Lu Qianni was the first-in-line heir to the House Lu. How could he possibly follow Fatty Lai's lead? He'd even raised the price to 110 million. Could this pill of life extension and toxin cleansing really be something good? The auctioneers sucked in a breath of cold air. Holy *T. This kind of bidding was a once-in-a-thousand-year wait. Yu Haitian's brows furrowed even tighter. If Fatty Lai was driving up the price, then why was Lu Qianni joining in the fun? As far as Yu Haitian was concerned, this pill of life extension and toxin cleansing might actually be something good. Had he misjudged it when he evaluated it? 150 million. Fatty Lai raised his paddle again. Lu Qianni's lungs were about to explode. What was the meaning of this, Fatty Lai? Were you trying to fight with me? Don't think that I don't have money just because you're rich. Lu Qianni raised his paddle again, calling out a price that caused the crowd to go wild. 200 million. Originally, everyone held a wait-and-see attitude. They wanted to see if others would make a move before deciding whether they would make a move or not. Many of the people present knew Lu Qianni, and if Lu Qianni had his eyes on something, how could it not be something good? But now they really couldn't make a move. Firstly, the price had been raised to 200 million, which was really too high. Secondly, they really didn't want to become enemies with Lu Qianni. From Lu Qianni's way of bidding, it could be seen that he was determined to get this pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. Otherwise, he wouldn't have increased the price like this. Therefore, even if there were some people who were tempted, it would not be good to bid now. Fortunately, there were a total of 3 and there were still 2 left. They all began to rub their fists. Because the way Lu Qianni was chasing after the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing reminded them of something. It wasn't a secret that Lu Qianni's father had gone to see Guan Shuimin a while ago, so many people present knew about it. Connecting the dots to the Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Company, that the auctioneer mentioned, they immediately thought of Guan Shuimin. Could it be that Lu Qianni's father's condition had improved because of the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing? Those who knew Fatty Lai at the same time had an even greater realization. Fatty Lai's father had contracted uremia and was about to meet the king of hell when he suddenly got discharged from the hospital. Not only was his face glowing, but he was also eating well. He was even healthier than an old man his age. Even if his uremia wasn't completely cured, he was almost fully recovered. This miraculous situation made everyone present understand. Fatty Lai and Lu Qianni weren't idiots. They both knew how good this pill of life extension and toxin cleansing was. Why else would they dare to increase the price so much? 250 million. Fatty Lai's eyes were red. This was a rare treasure and even Lin Yi said it was rare. It had to be very precious. Fatty Lai was too embarrassed to ask Lin Yi for it, so he could only bid for it himself. 280 million. Lu Qianni gritted his teeth and called out the highest price he could. The crowd was in an uproar again. If Lu Qianni didn't know about the effects of the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing, he wouldn't have called out this price. There was only one answer: the auctioneer's introduction was true. This pill really had the effects of prolonging life and detoxifying. Fatty Lai was about to call out another price when Lin Yi pulled him back, shaking his head. Stop, it's a little expensive. Alright. Fatty Lai didn't want to give up, but he didn't dare disobey Lin Yi. Lin Yi was his boss. Losing the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing was painful, but offending Lin Yi would be worse than death. Your dad drank the medicine I made for you. He doesn't need this anymore, Lin Yi said faintly to Fatty Lai. You don't have to fight for it. Thank you so much, boss. Fatty Lai was overjoyed. He'd wanted to prepare an emergency pill for his father, but Lin Yi said he could cure it. Fatty Lai, on the other hand, wanted one for himself. After all, this was an immortal pill. Thus he said, Boss, I also want one for myself. Oh, I'll give you one when we get back, Lin Yi said nonchalantly. Fatty Lai burst into tears at Lin Yi's words. People who didn't know better would think that he was crying because he didn't have the money to bid for the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. 280 million going once, 280 million going twice, 280 million going thrice. Sold. The auctioneer was extremely excited. This price could be said to be the most expensive item in the entire auction. Even the items on the third day of the auction might not be sold at such a price. This pill of life extension and toxin cleansing had the right to be auctioned in the third round. But since it was already in the first round, there was no changing it. They could only continue. Lu Tianyi was overjoyed when he saw Fatty Lai stop bidding and start sobbing. This Fatty Lai must be out of money. He heard that House Lai's boss was trying to split from him, and it seemed like House Lai's money had all been taken by Lai Changtian. Next, the second pill of life extension and toxin cleansing, with a starting price of 100 million. The auctioneer said slowly. Every increment must be at least 10 million. The auctioneer could increase the price according to the market and the response. With the previous example, the auctioneer wouldn't start with a starting price of 1 million again. That would be a joke. Although this price shocked the guests present, they also knew that this thing was indeed worth the price, so they didn't have any objections. Dad, what's that? How can it be sold for such a high price? Xiao Xiao looked at her father, confused. Chapter 491. House Yu makes a move. Tianlong, on the other hand, had a frown on his face. His heart was in turmoil, unable to calm down. Was there such a miraculous pill in this world? Would it work on his daughter's illness? If it really was as the auctioneer said, that it could cleanse a person's bones and marrow, could it be used on his daughter as well? Xiao Xiao's illness was caused by a defect in her blood. Miracle Dr. Lin had said it before, and with the development of science and technology, some genetic experts had said it as well. They'd all tried other methods to make up for Xiao Xiao's blood defect, but there hadn't been any progress. If this pill of life extension and toxin cleansing was effective, Tianlong would have gotten one for Xiao Xiao no matter what, but the price was too high for him to even think about it. He belonged to the most secretive department, and his annual salary was frighteningly high in the eyes of normal people, but he'd probably have to live his entire life without eating or drinking to buy a pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. Dad, what's wrong? Xiao Xiao asked curiously, seeing the conflicted look on her father's face. Xiao Xiao, I'm thinking, does this pill of life extension and toxin cleansing work on you? Tianlong said after some hesitation. But I can't afford it, huh? Xiao Xiao started laughing. This thing sounds like a strength pill, how could it be real? Dad, don't believe it, it's a scam. But the two people in the auction aren't idiots, Tianlong said, shaking his head. Feng Tianlong shook his head. One of them is Lai Changyi, the youngest son of the chairman of the biggest electronics industry in the north. He's rich, but he's not a prodigal. He's good at business. But why does he look like a crybaby? He can't get the pill, so he's just standing there crying? Xiao Xiao clicked her tongue. This fatty wasn't simple, but why was he crying? That's just how he is, but he doesn't cry all the time. He only cries for certain things. Tianlong said. The other person's even more powerful. He's the first heir to Yanjing's house, Lu Tianyi. He can't be an idiot. What's wrong with that? Rich people will buy weird stuff if they see it. Xiao Xiao didn't believe that the pill was that powerful. Let's wait and see. Tianlong had already made up his mind to pay a visit to Lu Tianyi. If this pill of life extension and toxin cleansing was really effective, he had to get one for his daughter no matter what. The bidding for the second pill of life extension and toxin cleansing had already begun. Because the base price had been raised to 100 million, most of the people who wanted to participate in the bidding decided to wait and see. 150 million. Fatty Lai jumped up again, raising the card in his hand. The crowd wasn't surprised at all. Fatty Lai had already bid 250 million, so it was reasonable for him to bid 150 million now. It seemed like he was determined to get it. A lot of people saw Fatty Lai and Lu Tianyi fighting over the pill, and they were certain that the pill was something good and effective. But they didn't have the guts to throw out a few 100 million yuan for it. What if the effect was not obvious? What if it could only extend one's lifespan for a short period of time? That wouldn't be worth it. With 200 million yuan they could do a lot more things. There was no need to buy this pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. 200 million. Tianyi didn't expect Tianyi to raise his paddle again and bid. Fatty Lai was starting to panic. Lu Tianyi, are you trying to go against me on purpose? What's the meaning of this? Isn't one enough for you? You want to fight with me? Aren't you a little too much? It's a fair competition and the highest bidder wins. It's only right and proper. Lu Tianyi glanced at Fatty Lai. He knew that he was going a little overboard, but he couldn't back down now. If he could get it for 200 million, then so be it. If it was more than that, Lu Tianyi would give up. After all, money didn't grow on trees. Lu Tianyi was already very satisfied with just one pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. 250 million. Fatty Lai raised his card again, but this time he smiled at Lin Yi, who was sitting on the chair. Lin Yi immediately understood that Fatty Lai had jumped out to mess things up. His goal was to get the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing at a higher price. He didn't stop him and let him bid. Raise the sign and buy it. The middle-aged man beside Yu Haitian suddenly spoke and ordered Yu Haitian. Yu Haitian was slightly taken aback. He then nodded and said, "Yes, second uncle. 280 million. Haitian raised the bidding card in his hand. House Yu was the organizer of the auction, but they had the right to participate in the bidding as well. It was just that there were too few items that caught House Yu's eye. Everyone present was surprised at Haitian's sudden participation. House Yu had never raised a card in the past few years, because everyone knew that once House Yu raised their card, no one would dare compete with them. It wasn't just because they were afraid of House Yu's wealth, but also because they didn't want to be enemies with House Yu. Whatever House Yu wanted, they would get it no matter how much money they had. So as long as House Yu raised their card, everyone else would give up. House Yu understood this as well, and so they wouldn't raise their card easily. Doing so would ruin the reputation of their auction. They would only make an exception if there was something they absolutely had to get. Just like now, House Yu was actually bidding for a pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. This meant that House Yu was determined to get the pill this time, and the pill was confirmed as well. However, House Yu wouldn't do something that would be criticized by others. Haitian's bid was the same price as the previous pill of life extension and toxin cleansing, so it wasn't considered bullying the weak. It was a very fair deal for the seller. After House Yu's bid, no one else bid, and so Haitian successfully won the second pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. The third pill of life extension and toxin cleansing appeared, and it was also the last one. Many people were rubbing their palms together, but they really couldn't bear to spend 200 million on a pill. They weren't House Yu, nor were they House Lu, nor were they the nouveau riche Fatty Lai. They had other businesses that needed money, and this 280 million was a little too much. Chapter 492. The final auction. It looks like the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing is very popular. Now let's start the auction for the last pill. Guests who are determined to get it, don't hold back. Remember, this is the last one. The last one. The auctioneer excitedly took out the last pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. He also hoped that this final pill of life extension and toxin cleansing could create a miracle and break through the previous two prices. The auction began, and the first to jump out was still Fatty Lai. Fatty Lai was still wiggling his fat butt as he raised his bidding card. 200 million. Wah? The people in the hall didn't expect Fatty Lai to bid 200 million this time. But they understood after some thought. Fatty Lai had failed twice before, and this was his last chance. If he didn't seize this chance, there wouldn't be another one in the future. The one who couldn't understand Fatty Lai's bidding was Yu Haitian. He'd gotten the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing, but the more he thought about it, the more shocked he became. This pill was a good item. Uncle, should we bid for another one? No. The middle-aged man shook his head. You've already lowered the price for the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. Lai Changyi didn't increase the price because of House Yu. I'm sure the others are the same. If you continue to fight, you'll lose out. That's not House Yu's style. Ah? Lowered? Yu Haitian blinked. Keep watching and you'll know. The middle-aged man said faintly. I'm afraid the price this time will exceed 300 million. Yu Haitian was filled with regret at his uncle's words. He was still young and hadn't thought things through. He'd thought that he'd just bid the highest price in the first round, but it was still too low. Under normal circumstances, if there were several similar items being auctioned in an auction, the price of the first auction item would be higher, and the price of the remaining items would decrease accordingly. This was because the buyers had already competed with each other, and the remaining prices would only be lower. But this time, it was obvious that something unexpected had happened. Lu Tianyi wanted to join in the fun, but when he heard the price of 200 million he gave up. He didn't want to bid anymore. Although the Lu family was rich, a lot of it was real estate and securities which couldn't be sold at all. Moreover, even if he had liquid funds he couldn't possibly use them all to buy pills, right? 210 million. A young man from an aristocratic family raised his bidding card after getting the tacit approval of his elders. However, he was immediately looked down upon by the others. Other people increased the price by tens of millions, but he only increased it by 10 million. Wasn't that too little? 250 million. Fatty Lai said generously. Dr. Kong frowned. He'd wanted to bid during the second round, but he didn't expect House Yu to beat him to it. He didn't dare compete with House Yu, so he could only wait until the third round. But judging from Fatty Lai's expression, he was determined to get the pill. Dr. Kong was starting to panic. Lin Yi and Guan Shuamin had been sitting the whole time, and it was Fatty Lai who'd stood up and raised his bidding card. No one could see Lin Yi and Guan Shuamin clearly, not even Dr. Kong. 280 million. Under Dr. Kang's signal, Kong Guifeng bid a higher price, the same as the 2 pills of life extension and toxin cleansing. He'd thought that Fatty Lai wouldn't compete, but life was full of surprises. 300 million. Fatty Lai clenched his teeth and raised his bidding card without hesitation. The crowd froze for a moment, but they all understood why Fatty Lai would bid 300 million. He'd given up the first time because he'd still have another chance. The second time, it was House Yu who'd made the bid. Fatty Lai didn't want to compete, nor did he dare, so he'd given up. The third time was his last chance and he had to grit his teeth and fight for it. With that, 300 million wasn't that high anymore. Dr. Kong was so angry he wanted to curse. This Fatty Lai was too much of a bully, wasn't he? He didn't increase the price when Lu Tianyi bid, and he didn't increase the price when Haitian bid. But when it came to Dr. Kong he raised it to 300 million. With the previous example, Dr. Kong thought that 280 million was more or less within his grasp. But it seemed that things weren't as simple as he'd thought. Dad, what do we do? Kong Guifeng frowned. This is the last pill of life extension and toxin cleansing, and that damn fatty seems determined to get it. Xiao Ji and Xiao Ben on the other hand were confused. Elder Kong, is this pill of life extension and toxin cleansing really something good? Dr. Kong didn't answer them but turned to Kong Guifeng instead. It doesn't matter if he's determined to get it or not, we have to get this last pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. This is very important to our family. I understand. Kong Guifeng obviously knew what his father meant. Once the ingredients of this pill were analyzed, then the day of House Kang's meteoric rise was just around the corner. This might be an ancient medicine that has been lost for a long time. Dr. Kong said to Kong Guifeng before explaining to the Xiao family brothers. After I buy one I plan to study it. Oh? I see. No wonder it's so expensive, it's a lost ancient medicine. Xiao Ji said, understanding dawning on him. Then we have to buy it. With your knowledge, Elder Kong, I'm sure you'll succeed. Haha, that's not for sure. Isn't the one who discovered this pill some miracle doctor company? They haven't figured it out yet, have they? I can only give it a try. Xiao Ji's words were very pleasing to the ears, and it made Dr. Kong very happy. On the other side, Kong Guifeng had already started bidding. 320 million, 350 million. Fatty Lai didn't wait for the auctioneer to speak, calling out an even higher price. Kong Guifeng froze, a layer of cold sweat forming on his forehead. This Fatty Lai sure was rich, daring enough to raise the price. Continue. Dr. Kong didn't want to spend so much money, but he was rich after all. Dr. Kang's medical group had close to 500 million in liquid assets, and he could still use it. 380 million. Kong Guifeng continued raising his paddle. Fatty Lai hesitated for a moment, but just when the auctioneer called out 380 million going once, Fatty Lai jumped out again. 400 million. Fatty Lai called out his own price. Chapter 493. Changes in the auction. But Fatty Lai and Dr. Kang's family were at odds with each other. What kind of person was Dr. Kong? He was a tycoon in the medical world, and even he was willing to pay such a high price for a pill. How could it be a normal pill? The crowd was starting to regret not joining the bidding when the first pill was brought out, allowing Lu Tianyi to take advantage of the situation. The price was now at 400 million, and it might not even be the final price. As expected, Kang Guifeng raised his paddle again under Dr. Kang's signal. 410 million. He didn't dare raise the bid too much this time. House Kang only had about 500 million in liquid assets, and if he were to raise the bid too much, they'd run out of liquid assets and their business would be affected. But after Kang Guifeng raised the bid, Fatty Lai didn't make a sound. Those who didn't know the situation would think that Fatty Lai was out of money and was hesitating or giving up. Fatty Lai, however, smiled at Lin Yi. "Boss, I think House Kang's at their limit. I'll raise the bid one more time and they'll definitely be able to keep up, but it'll be hard to say if I raise it again." "Yeah, that's enough." Lin Yi smiled. This Fatty Lai was quite sarcastic, but Lin Yi didn't have a good impression of Dr. Kang's family. He wouldn't stop Fatty Lai from messing with them. 410 million going once? 410 million going twice. The auctioneer paused and looked at Fatty Lai to see if he was going to raise the bid. Dr. Kang was seething with anger. What kind of game was this auctioneer playing? Why was he looking at Fatty Lai if he didn't have the guts to go in for the third time? Wasn't he encouraging Fatty Lai to go against him? However, the auctioneer's encouragement was effective. Fatty Lai gritted his teeth and stood up abruptly, raising his paddle. 420 million. Dr. Kang's heart turned cold. Motherfucker, isn't this auctioneer too mean? But this was House Yu's auction house. Even if Dr. Kang had something to say, he couldn't say it out loud. He could only swallow his anger and signal Kang Guifeng to continue. This time, Dr. Kang had already decided to bet his treasure on the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. Judging from the current situation, there were probably only 3 of these pills left. If he missed this one, there wouldn't be any left. Hence, Dr. Kang had no choice but to grit his teeth and bear with it. 430 million. Kang Guifeng raised the bidding board in his hand. 430 million going once. 430 million going twice. 430 million going thrice. Sold. The auctioneer wanted Fatty Lai to continue bidding, but regrettably, Fatty Lai backed off this time. He was out of money and decided to give up. He sat there quietly, not moving an inch. The happiest person right now was Lu Tianyi. He was feeling great. He thought that 280 million for a pill of life extension and toxin cleansing was expensive, but now he felt like he'd gotten a great deal. Fatty Lai didn't even get the last pill for 420 million. It was Dr. Kang's family who got it for 430 million. But he was wrong. He thought he was the happiest person, but that wasn't the case. The happiest person was Fatty Lai. He'd played everyone in the hall. These 3 elixirs had brought the company nearly 1 billion yuan in profit. This was an important stage of the company's development. With 1 billion yuan they could do a lot of things. Fatty Lai did want to bid for one earlier, but since Lin Yi had already agreed to give him one, he didn't want to mess things up anymore. "Boss, I didn't think we'd have so much money all of a sudden." Fatty Lai chuckled. Lin Yi didn't think that 3 normal bone and marrow cleansing pills could sell for so much money. Old Lin had packed them into jars for him to eat when he was young. "Ha! You won't be left out." Lin Yi was very impressed with Fatty Lai's business acumen. If Fatty Lai hadn't messed things up today, the 3 pills of life extension and toxin cleansing wouldn't have sold for such a high price. "Thank you, boss." Fatty Lai nodded excitedly. However, just as the auctioneer was about to introduce the next item, someone from the guest seats spoke up. "Good things should be shared with everyone. Little Yu Haitian, ask the seller if they still have the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. We haven't even started bidding and the item is already gone. This isn't fair." The person who spoke was the head of the Iron Fist Wu family, Wu Gonggao. His name was very well chosen. Wu Gonggao naturally meant that he was highly skilled in martial arts. It was a bit of a boast, but it was well deserved. He was one of the few remaining mystic class masters in the common world. Only he dared to speak to someone from House Yu like this. House Wu Iron Fist was an ancient noble house. Although they looked to be about the same age as Lu Tianyi's House Lu, for a century-old noble house like this, which one of them didn't have a trump card? Even the head of House Wu, Wu Gonggao's martial arts were enough to shock the audience. Even House Yu was wary of him. It could be said that as long as Wu Gonggao was in charge of House Wu Iron Fist, no one dared to underestimate them. Wu Gonggao rushed over after receiving a call from his grandson, Wu Qintian. He was in Yanjing as well and had come to House Yu's auction, but a head of a house like him would rarely attend the first and second day of the auction. The first 2 auctions were usually attended by the descendants of the house, and he would only attend the last one himself. But when he heard that there was a pill of life extension and toxin cleansing that had a price of 280 million, and that House Yu was making a move, he couldn't sit still anymore. He rushed over to the auction site, just in time for the auctioneer's final hammer strike. Tian, on the other hand, took a look at the introduction of the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing, and immediately felt that it was similar to the long-lost bone cleansing pill in Wulin. His interest was piqued, and he interrupted the auction unwillingly. If it were just a normal noble house's disciple or a rich merchant asking, Haitian would naturally have an excuse to reject him, but the person asking was the head of House Wu Iron Fist, Wu Gonggao, a mystic class master. He naturally didn't dare ignore him and looked at his second uncle. Ask Mr. Lai Chang'e for his opinion. The middle-aged man hesitated before speaking faintly. If there's more, it's fine to take out a few more. We won't take a cut. Chapter 494. Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Company Limited. In an auction, if an item was sold very well and wasn't unique, then the auction house would contact the seller at the last minute and ask if there were any other similar items to be auctioned. So it wasn't strange for Haitian to call Lai Chang'e right now. Mr. Lai, the response to the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing is quite good. Do you have another treasure like that in your hands? You heard it yourself, there are some guests who haven't had the chance to buy it yet, Haitian asked casually. He didn't think much of Fatty Lai before, but his attitude was much better now. I'm sorry, Mr. Yu, but I only have 3 now. I won't be able to bring out a 4th in this auction, no matter what. Fatty Lai said apologetically. Is that so? That's a shame. Haitian sighed. Looks like I'll have to go on stage and explain. Why don't I go and explain? I can also explain why this pill of life extension and toxin cleansing is so rare, Fatty Lai said. Sure, I'll have to trouble you then, Mr. Lai. If Lai Chang'e were to personally explain the situation, it would save Haitian a lot of trouble. Otherwise, if someone came looking for him for the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing, even though he was the person in charge of the auction, he wouldn't be able to produce the extra pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. Now that Fatty Lai was shouldering all the responsibility, it couldn't be any better. After hanging up, Fatty Lai twisted his fat body and walked up to the auction stage under everyone's surprised gazes. Greetings, guests. I represent Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company to express our sincerest apologies. Fatty Lai held the microphone in his hand and spoke to the people below the stage. All the guests were dumbfounded. Fatty Lai was from Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company? Then why did he participate in the auction? Could it be that he was selling and buying, driving up the price? Instantly, many of the guests frowned at Fatty Lai's actions. Fatty Lai's actions were very inappropriate. Although there was nothing wrong with it, everyone knew the rules of the auction, and House Yu would take a cut of the profits. But Fatty Lai's actions would damage his reputation. Miracle Dr. Kong was the angriest of them all. Tianyi wasn't that far off, but the price he'd bid was already very cheap, so he wasn't too conflicted. Dr. Kong, on the other hand, was different. That was 430 million. Most of the family's cash flow had been used up, but Fatty Lai had tricked him. The ingredients for this pill of life extension and toxin cleansing are very rare, and the refining process is very complicated. Professor Guan used almost a year to refine 5 pills, and 3 of them were auctioned off. Fatty Lai shook his head as he continued. Fatty Lai's words calmed the crowd down a little. 5 pills in a year and the ingredients were rare. This pill was a priceless treasure. If it was said that Dr. Kong had refined it, the people present might have doubted it. But if it was said that Guan Xueming had refined it, everyone believed it. In the eyes of these aristocratic families, Guan Xueming was already a divine doctor. But weren't there still 2 left? Where did they go? As for the remaining 2, one of them was given to Miracle Dr. Kong by another partner of Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company during his birthday banquet. The other one was taken by my father. Fatty Lai blurted out the whereabouts of the other 2 pills of life extension and toxin cleansing. Naturally, he wouldn't tell anyone that the pill his father took was actually Dr. Kang's. The people who knew Fatty Lai finally understood why his father had recovered so quickly. He was in a coma from uremia, on the verge of death. But now his body was as good as new. These people beat their chests and stomped their feet, regretting that they didn't act earlier. Now there were only 5 left and now they were all gone. Of course, the most embarrassed person was Dr. Kong. His face was burning. He just told Xiaoji that the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing was a lost product of ancient times. But now it was Guan Xueming's doing. Not only that, but he'd even given you a pill of life extension and toxin cleansing at your birthday banquet. How could you say that it was a unique item? However, Xiaoji didn't voice his disdain because he was on the same side as House Kong. If Dr. Kong was embarrassed, they wouldn't have it easy either. But Fatty Lai's next words made Dr. Kong feel a little better. So, these three are the only three left. I may be the CEO of Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company, but I don't have the right to own a pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. So when I found out about the effects of this pill, I couldn't help but participate in the bidding. But I didn't get it in the end. It's a pity? I see. The guests heard Fatty Lie's words and understood his actions. Fatty Lie really wanted to buy it and he wasn't trying to mess things up. If they didn't want it, then he would. As for why Fatty Lie raised the price from the start, it was simple. He knew the true value of the pill, and so people dared to bid. But I'll discuss with Professor Guan when I get back. We'll see if we can bring out some other good items to auction in the third auction. Fatty Lie finished speaking and bowed to everyone. Thank you all for your love for our Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company. Our products will be sold after the auction. After that, Fatty Lie walked down the stage. The audience was very interested in the items that Fatty Lie mentioned in the third auction. They were all discussing whether this Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company would bring them any surprises. Guan Xuemin's name had always been resounding among these aristocratic families and wealthy merchants. His acupuncture skills were even more superb. But Miracle Dr. Guan didn't care about fame and fortune. Even if there were people who wanted to get close to him, they didn't have much of a relationship with him. But who would have thought that Guan Xueming would set up a company with someone else and set up the Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company? Was he going against Dr. Kang's medical company? Or did Guan Xueming suddenly want to earn money? Chapter 495. Chapter 495, meeting an old friend. Fatty Lie's words were smooth, but he didn't say a single thing about the actual problem. Whether or not the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing would be available in the future, and when, he didn't say. He also didn't say what items would be added for the third auction, and whether or not they would be added was still unknown. But even with this kind of slick and ambiguous attitude, the people present were still very excited and expectant. Vague things always let people's imagination run wild. You sure know how to talk. That's as good as not saying anything. Lin Yi smiled faintly as he watched Fatty Lie come down. Haha, that's true. How can we just say things like that? It's a trade secret. Fatty Lie smiled shyly. But boss, do you think we'll be auctioning anything else for the third auction? What else? Lin Yi didn't have anything prepared, but it wasn't too late to prepare now. I heard that Dr. Kang's auctioning some special edition golden creation medicine tomorrow. I heard that it heals wounds faster than normal medicine, Fatty Lie said. Why don't we auction some special edition golden creation medicine as well? I've already offended him to death, and once our medicine hits the market, we'll be competitors. We don't have to worry about making enemies with them. Chem? Lin Yi's interest was piqued when he heard that Dr. Kang had special edition golden creation medicine in the auction as well. Let me think, let's see what I can come up with. Let's see if it can surpass his. That's great. As expected of the boss. Fatty Lie nodded repeatedly. That's true. It'd be meaningless if it were the same as them. It'd look like we're trying to copy him. The following auction items were all ordinary items. Of course, this was only relative. Because even if these items were to be brought to an ordinary auction, they would be considered top-notch items. It was just that everyone here had seen the world, so they weren't too surprised by these things. None of the bids were higher than the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. In fact, they weren't even a tenth of the price. Lin Yi wasn't interested anymore, so Fatty Lie left his seat and went to the backstage of the auction to handle the handover procedures. The profits from the 3 pills, minus the money spent on the sheepskin map, were all deposited into Fatty Lie's account. After the paperwork was done, Fatty Lie returned with the map and handed it to Lin Yi. Lin Yi opened it and glanced at it, then put it away. This was not the place to study these things, and Lin Yi did not intend to study them, at least not now. Including the piece at home, Lin Yi only had 2 pieces of the map. He didn't know how big the map was and how many pieces it was divided into, so the 2 pieces he had were practically useless. Lin Yi had asked Fatty Lie to bid for it out of curiosity. He didn't expect the map to bring him any benefits, it was just a spur-of-the-moment decision. The auction ended quickly. Other than the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing, none of the other items had this kind of effect. After a few bids, the auction ended abruptly. There was nothing special about the first day's auction, and it was the same every year. It was just that the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing was a special case. Lin Yi, Fatty Lie, and Guan Xuemin stood up and prepared to leave, but they saw Dr. Kang looking in their direction. His face froze when he saw Lin Yi and Guan Xuemin. Lin Yi nodded at him and smiled. Dr. Kang had long suspected that Lin Yi was a second-generation heir, so he only frowned when he saw him with Fatty Lai and Guan Shuamin. As far as he was concerned, Guan Shuamin's business career was all thanks to Lin Yi and Fatty Lai. The investor was most likely Fatty Lai, and this Lin Yi probably had some shares as well. But Dr. Kong didn't think much of it. The person he was afraid of was Fatty Lai, the veteran businessman. Lin Yi. Xiao Xiao couldn't believe what she was seeing. She rubbed her eyes and confirmed that it was Lin Yi. She ran over and cried out in joy. Lin Yi, Lin Yi. Lin Yi turned around and looked at Xiao Xiao, surprised. He didn't understand why he would see her here. Lin Yi didn't believe that Xiao Xiao followed him here, because he didn't see her at all when he boarded the plane. The only possibility was that it was a coincidence. He smiled bitterly. Why are you here? Yeah, why are you here? Xiao Xiao asked at the same time. I'm just looking around with my friends. Lin Yi smiled. I still have something to do. I'll be going. Lin Yi didn't want to get too close to Xiao Xiao. This girl's way of thinking was a little weird, and it made Lin Yi want to stay away from her. Are you coming tomorrow? Are we going to sit together? Xiao Xiao was annoyed. Why was Lin Yi so cold to her? But on the surface, she looked at Lin Yi expectantly and asked pitifully. We'll talk about it tomorrow. Lin Yi didn't want to waste time with her. All right, I'll come find you tomorrow. Xiao Xiao remembered that her dad was still waiting for her. She didn't want to talk too much with Lin Yi. But seeing Lin Yi here gave her an inexplicable sense of excitement. It was a feeling she couldn't quite put her finger on. Meeting an old friend in a foreign land? Or was it a chance for her to make Lin Yi fall in love with her? Or was it because she was bored? At that moment, Gong Gao and Qin Tian walked over briskly. Gong Gao was tempted after learning that Guan Shuamin was the one who'd made the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. He wanted to talk to Guan Shuamin and see if he could get him another one. Professor Guan. Long time no see. I've missed you. Gong Gao was wearing a long robe looking quite like a martial artist. He cupped his fists excitedly when he saw Shuamin. Haha, Elder Wu, how are you? Shuamin nodded with a smile. He'd given Gong Gao acupuncture before, so he wasn't a stranger, but he didn't act overly friendly or familiar. Shuamin's attitude towards noble houses had always been neutral, and he didn't get too close to any of them. Even the famous House Yu and the Iron Fist Wu. Thanks to Professor Guan, I'm still healthy. But I'll have to trouble Miracle Dr. Guan to give me acupuncture when you're free. Gong Gao said very politely. Chapter 496. A tense situation, that's not a problem, Elder Wu. Just come visit me in Songshan when you're free. Shuamin didn't decline the offer, but he definitely wouldn't go to the noble houses to treat them. Shuamin's temper was something that all the noble houses and merchants knew of. He was willing to see patients and he didn't care about the fees, but he never went out to see patients. If he was sick, he'd come to Songshan. This was also because Shuamin was also teaching at the University of Medicine and Medicine. In his eyes, he was a professor and teaching was his duty. So no matter what happened, he couldn't let his students get in the way of teaching. All right, I'll be sure to visit soon. Gong Gao nodded with a smile. Grandpa, this is the guy I told you about. Not only did he seduce Sun Jingyi, but he even pretended to be some bullshit miracle doctor. He's obviously a liar. I even got slapped by my aunt because of him. Qin Tian abruptly realized that Lin Yi, who was standing beside Shuamin, felt an uncontrollable sense of humiliation. He lost his mind instantly, pointing at Lin Yi and yelling at him. Qin Tian had been raised too high by the house recently, and was being groomed as the third-generation heir. But it made sense, a young man in his 20s reaching golden class early phase. What kind of achievement was that? He was probably the only one in this world. Of course, that was only what House Wu thought. And so, House Wu put all the benefits on Qin Tian's head, creating his arrogant and domineering personality. He wouldn't take a single loss and he'd always take revenge. And so, when he saw Lin Yi, he didn't even think before insulting him. Shuamin's face darkened. In his eyes, Lin Yi was both a teacher and a friend. No matter how bad he was still a senior brother. And so, naturally, he wasn't happy that someone was insulting Lin Yi like that. He looked at Gong Gao and said faintly, Elder Wu will be leaving if there's nothing else. Wu Gonggao's expression froze. He did not expect that Guan Shuamin would stand up for Lin Yi. He was in a difficult position. Wu Gonggao was famous for being protective of his own people. Furthermore, this grandson of his was extremely talented. Naturally, he treasured him a lot. Whatever he wanted, he would give it to him. No one could say or touch him. Since his grandson was in trouble, he would naturally stand up for him. Who cared whose fault it was and who the other party was? But now, Guan Shuamin was one of the few people he didn't dare to offend. With Guan Shuamin here, he naturally couldn't cause trouble for Lin Yi. He glanced at Lin Yi indifferently and remembered his face, preparing to find a chance to teach him a lesson. However, Wu Gonggao did not say anything, but some people were unwilling and directly blew up the temple. Who are you calling a liar? Look at you, you're the liar. You're worse than a fart. Xiao Xiao didn't like it when this person insulted Lin Yi for no reason at all. Who was she? She was playing the role of Lin Yi's pursuer, and this person insulted Lin Yi. Wasn't that the same as insulting her for her lack of taste, for falling for a liar? And so, naturally Xiao Xiao was unwilling. She glared at Qin Tian, and if there weren't so many people around she would have kicked him. Who was Xiao Xiao? Beating people up was nothing out of the ordinary. Qin Tian was furious to hear that someone was insulting him for Lin Yi. He was about to say something, but when he saw that it was a pretty girl, he couldn't say anything. Don't get involved, this has nothing to do with you. The young has no manners and the old has no manners? Xiao Xiao curled her lips. Hey old man, your grandson has no manners at all. Aren't you going to teach him a lesson? What did you say, you little girl? Gonggao's face flashed with anger as he looked at Xiao Xiao coldly, his fist turning into a palm. As the head of the Iron Fist Wu House, he had to teach a junior a lesson for talking to him like that. Where would his face go? Where would House Wu's face go? You old man, what are you doing? Xiao Xiao was startled. She didn't know martial arts, but she could feel the killing intent coming from Gonggao. Mystic early phase. Lin Yi's heart skipped a beat. Wu Gonggao and Qin Tian were both physical practitioners, so he couldn't feel the energy in their bodies. He could only sense their strength level when they used their physical practitioner's arts. He didn't expect this old man to be this strong. Lin Yi moved his body subconsciously, smiling bitterly. No matter what, Xiao Xiao was standing up for him just now. No matter what her intentions were, Lin Yi couldn't just leave her be. Otherwise it'd be too much. So as soon as Gonggao made his move, Lin Yi planned to block it for Xiao Xiao. Although the opponent was a mystic early phase, Lin Yi was a golden class late phase peak, and he practiced the art of Dragon Slayer. Naturally, he had the confidence to take a hit from a mystic early phase. He couldn't guarantee victory, but he could protect himself. But Lin Yi's move was unnecessary. The moment he moved, a middle-aged man appeared in front of Xiao Xiao, looking at Gonggao calmly. Elder Wu, are you going to attack my daughter? Gonggao paused, his face changing. How could he not know Feng Tianlong? Gonggao took a deep breath, knowing that he couldn't do anything today. It was impossible to teach Xiao Xiao a lesson. What Gonggao was afraid of wasn't Tianlong's golden class mid-phase strength. In the eyes of a mystic early phase, a golden class was nothing. Of course, what he was afraid of wasn't Tianlong's background. The Supernatural Investigation Department was a mysterious organization, and their power was shocking. But that was for normal people. For a noble house like Gonggao, although he wouldn't make them his enemy, he wasn't afraid of them either. What Gonggao was afraid of was the person who had retired for more than 10 years, Tianlong's former captain. That person used to be a member of the Supernatural Investigation Department's Special Task Force, and had brought Tianlong on missions before. He had a close relationship with Tianlong. If it wasn't Tianlong, Gonggao might not give face to someone else, but he had to give face to Tianlong. In that person's eyes, even an Earth class would be nothing to him, let alone a mystic early phase. Although he didn't know how strong that person was, Gonggao knew that if he pissed him off, House Wu would be finished. It would only take a day. Pho. Gonggao let out a long breath and smiled awkwardly. So it's Captain Feng, why would I attack your daughter? I was just joking.